The first item on the order paper is questions addressed to the Deputy President. Members may press the talk button on their desks if they wish to ask a supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honorable Y.N. Posa, and I call upon the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, thank you. As honorable members will know, education is critical if we are to build a fair, equitable and prosperous South Africa. And adult education is an important component of that education process. Since 1994, adult education has been pursued through a variety of methods, through courses at higher education institutions, workplace training in the private sector, lifelong learning or continuing education programs. Many people have used adult education to gain knowledge, to acquire skills, and to increase literacy and numeracy. I'm informed, Honorable Speaker, by the Minister of Higher Education and Training that there are 260,000 people in public centers, in 1,823 in private centers who are accessing adult education in South Africa. Community colleges were instituted by Cabinet in 2013. Minister Nzimande has indicated that these type of new colleges will cater for everyone who attended school but did not have an opportunity to complete their education process, and those who are unable to attend school, as well as affording opportunities for those who do not qualify for admission to TVET colleges and universities. The community colleges are going to prepare students, and many of these students are already adults, for the labor market and for self-employment. They will, in the main, offer the General Education and Training Certificate, as well as National Senior Certificate for adults. It is estimated that 3.3 million people who are not in employment or education or training will benefit from these community colleges. These will incorporate the existing public adult learning centers and represent a third tier of institutions alongside our universities and TVET colleges. As we speak now, 9 community college administrative centers have been established, and these were established as of 1st April 2015, and these were established in each of our 9 provinces. These centers are facilitating the mergers of existing public adult learning centers into community colleges. Following the merger, pilot community colleges will be established in 2016. Thereafter, the colleges will be progressively rolled out throughout the country. The Department of Education and Higher Training, or Higher Education rather than Training, is available to elaborate on the specific measures that they are putting in place to help workers in the informal and sectors and formal sectors to acquire basic education and technical skills required. And I may say that we have found that in a number of private sector entities, companies, that is, quite a lot of training of adult workers is ongoing, and this is to be commended. Thank you.
The Honorable Posa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. To the Honorable Deputy President, thank you for responding or for your comprehensive response to my question. My follow-up question will be, where is the responsibility for adult education and training located within government?
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, clearly the Department of Higher Education and Training has a great responsibility for this. And as I indicated, we have found that the private sector, and particularly public-owned companies, are playing a key role in rolling out training processes for adult workers in their workplaces. So the Department of Higher Education and Training clearly plays a critical role in this, and that is where it is located, as they are also rolling out these various community colleges. Thank you.
The Honorable Ndlozi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The majority of employees, Honorable Deputy President, in fact, the majority of employers, companies, some of which you own or owned, including government, the government that you serve in, employ a lot of people who want to go and study, want to improve their studies, and also the improvement of those qualifications is important for promotion within these companies, within government. Yet, both government and these companies refuse to pay their wages for study leave. If we want to improve adult education, shouldn't we be implementing a law that forces companies and the government to pay people even if they are on study leave the whole time, including when they go to Harvard for the whole year? Government must pay so that they are sustained there and their jobs, because they can't afford to lose their salaries. Number one, education is expensive. Two, the reality is the very promotion depends on them getting qualified. In any way, the country will, including parliament, will benefit from people who are much more better qualified for a population that is much more educated, that doesn't even lie about its qualifications. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
There could well be merit in what Honorable Ndlozi is saying. What I do know is that quite a number of companies do tailor-make courses that some of their employees should embark upon, and those are often job-specific. And whilst they are going through that training, they are often paid. And what he is saying is that if an employee chooses to do whatever course that may sometimes not even be relevant to the type of work they are doing, they should be paid. Even if it's for a year or two at Harvard, that should be paid for. Now, that is a matter, clearly, that needs to be properly and thoroughly discussed and debated. But what is important is that what we should be doing is to encourage companies to assist their workers to embark on training processes, courses, and so forth, and to some extent take ownership of part of the payment. Some companies actually say, you pay for 50%, I'll pay for 50%. So that is a process that is underway in a number of entities and companies, and we are yet still, Honorable Ndlozi, to see the extent to which this can develop further. What I do admire with your proposal is that what we do need to be doing is to improve the skills acquisition of all our people, all the workers who are in employment, and that is why I say there is merit in the proposal that you are making and that Honorable Ndlozi is making. We need to look at the efficacy of funding training processes that may not necessarily be relevant to the type of work that each worker is doing. So I think he's got something good going there. We need to look at it.
The Honorable Sibi from the NFP.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, my name is A.M. Sheikh Imam. Thank you. Honorable Deputy President, the quality of education given to the ABET learners is dependent on the quality of educators. Could you perhaps tell us, Honorable Deputy President, what program is in place to ensure that all educators in the ABET field are paid adequately and with all the necessary benefits in order for them to enjoy the duties that they are performing so that they could do it adequately? Thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
The process of improving the education skills of those who deliver education at the ABET level is underway. In fact, thousands and thousands of people are being currently trained and prepared to participate in this form of training. And obviously, the issue of paying them becomes a critical one. I know that more than 20,000 people were recently trained in that area. Their pay has not been at the level of teachers. It has been more like a stipend, but clearly it's something that has been raised and is being looked at. I do know that the Department of Higher Education and Training is looking precisely at this. But the critical issue here is that the improvement of the skill base of those who are delivering education, particularly in the Karigude program, is being upscaled. And we should see in time more and more adult education teachers of those who deliver that type of education becoming more proficient with delivering adult education. So it's something that is being looked at. Thank you.
The Honorable Bozoli.
Mr. Deputy President, thank you very much for reminding us that the Department of Higher Education and Training has a plan to extend and consolidate adult education and training. May we have your assurance that unlike all the other exciting initiatives in the Department of Higher Education and Training, e.g. the expansion of universities and TVETs in particular, this initiative will be properly funded and not left like the others in a situation where thousands of students enroll but the colleges or universities are not able to properly teach or house them. Given that you understand this problem, as you chaired a commission on the funding of universities which found that they were grossly underfunded, what will you personally do to assist the situation, given that the Minister has been unable to secure the funding required? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
The Minister of Higher Education and Training asked me before I became a Member of Parliament to chair this committee looking at the funding of institutions of higher learning. And indeed, we did find that quite a number of the institutions, particularly the previously disadvantaged institutions, were not properly and adequately funded. And proposals with regard to how they should be properly funded have been made. And this is a matter which the Minister has taken quite seriously. And in fact, having initiated the establishment of this committee, without even knowing what the committee would recommend, he has absorbed and taken on board the proposals that have come through. And I think the proposals are sitting not only on his desk, but are being processed with a view of getting sufficient funding from the Minister of Finance. So there is quite a high level of seriousness in the Department of Higher Education and Training with regard to funding education, not only education at the TVET colleges and universities, but also with regard to adult education. So there is a huge drive. To the extent that I'm involved in the HRDC committee, we are looking at precisely this matter and want to get more funding so that we can ensure that many of our people, both adult and young people, do get adequate training. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 10, which has been asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition. I have been informed that the Honorable De Freitas will take charge of the supplementary question on behalf of the Honorable the Leader of the Opposition. The Honorable Deputy President.
The new e-toll dispensation seeks to achieve a balance between the need on the one hand to finance the construction and maintenance of the freeway system that will serve Gauteng now and into the future, and on the other hand, to minimize the financial impact on ordinary South Africans, particularly those from low to medium income households who use the Gauteng freeways. The new dispensation itself aims to be fair, to be affordable, and to be sustainable. The dispensation draws on the findings of the advisory panel that was appointed by the Gauteng Premier in July of last year, which was meant to conduct a comprehensive impact assessment on e-tolls in the province. The panel's findings were based on a thorough consultation process with various stakeholders that took place through public meetings, research, roundtable discussions, focused consultation with various entities and organizations, and they also consulted with experts on transport as well as experts on the economy and the environment. The panel found that the implementation of the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project has benefited the economy as well as the people of Gauteng through a better quality road system, reduced travel time for those who used to spend a lot of time on the roads, improved fuel efficiency, reduced vehicle operating costs, and improved logistics efficiencies. Now, these were the benefits that the panel, an independent panel for that matter, found had been the great benefits. However, it also found that in its current form, the e-toll system places what it regarded as a disproportionate burden on low and medium income households. It also found that the new dispensation dramatically reduces the cost to all motorists traveling on the Gauteng's freeways. It does away with costs of people who use them infrequently. It does not penalize people who do not have e-tags, and it provides extremely favorable terms for people who are currently in arrears. That is the new dispensation that was announced. One of the principles of the new dispensation is to safeguard the integrity of the fiscus, and in particular, Sanral, which has a responsibility and a mandate to improve and build our road system. The new dispensation also supports this principle by ensuring that Sanral's revenue expectations are maintained through the hybrid model which was announced, and that it is sustained by the continuation of what the panel also accepted, which is the user pay principle. For Gauteng residents, the new improved roads provide significant economic and social benefit, and the tariff is equitable in terms of the benefit. The new dispensation also ensures that future road upgrades and expansions are possible, because this is just but one phase. More phases are meant to follow in the wake of what has been done now. Additionally, this principle alleviates the burden on the state, and it can therefore fund the backlog on maintenance of existing roads from the national budget. In short, Madam Speaker, as journalist Lucas Lidwaba writes in the Sowetan yesterday, there comes a time in the history of a country when a government must take difficult decisions, and sometimes it also needs to take unpopular decisions and act in the best interests of the country and its citizens. And this is precisely what has been done. the responsibility on the government is to make sure that it acts in the interest of all people, and it governs. And sometimes the decisions that the government takes, wherever governments operate in the world, at times they do take unpopular decisions with a view of advancing the interests of the many. And this is precisely what has had to happen. The pleasing thing with this one, though, is that there's been thorough consultation throughout, and a consultation process that was also engineered and led by an independent panel of experts that was appointed by the Gauteng government. Thank you.
The Honorable De Freitas.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Deputy President, with payment recovery costs rising and actual payments received falling, it's clear that the state and the province will have to step in to meet the shortfall caused by Gauteng motorists' non-compliance to the toll system. As it stands, e-tolls and load shedding are killing jobs in Gauteng, and now even more resources will be diverted from service delivery to prop up this unfair system that burdens economic growth. Do you believe that e-tolls are still the best solution for funding our freeway system when it's clear that citizens do not want them, and by your own admission, is an unpopular decision?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Let us be clear that road tolling did not start with the Gauteng freeway road improvement. We've had road tolling in South Africa over many years. A number of our roads are tolled. You just need to get into your car and travel from Johannesburg to Durban. You will go through no less than 7 or 8 toll gates. So tolling is the normal way that many countries around the world utilize to earn revenue so that they can improve the roads. Now, with regard to this one, the impact that this freeway road tolling has had on an adverse basis on lower income groups has been reduced to a large extent, because in the main, most of the lower income group people travel in buses, in trains, and in taxis, and all those have been exempted. And we must accept that the reduction has been to the benefit largely of those people. As we speak now, the tolling system is receiving thousands of calls from ordinary motorists who are saying, we want to know how to access the benefits that you announced. Thousands of them are doing so. The revenue that has been received just in the past month has started ticking up. And we are certain that rather than total rejection of this system, we are beginning to see people having a deeper and a better understanding of what the government has decided on. Of course, tolling is always a difficult one because it means that there's an additional tax that is being levied on people, but in this case, it is a tax that people have to pay, realizing what the benefit is. And the benefit, as the panel found out, has been great on the economy of Gauteng, has reduced traveling time, and has made people travel a lot better, reducing their own vehicle costs. So that is what government has decided needs to be done, and we are moving forward. It is being implemented. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Shibambu.
Honorable Speaker, I'm taking the question. Honorable Deputy President, if you are so confident about your panel's work, why don't you do a referendum? Because if you conduct a referendum, you will find out what we found out. From members of the community of Orange Farm in Stratford, we found a plumber who was complaining heavily about the 255 rands he has to pay traveling around Johannesburg doing his work. Now here are our questions, because we believe that The co-modification and privatization of our roads is the most evil thing people with capitalist mannerisms like you have imposed on our people. How much exactly is Sanral owing? When is Sanral expected to pay this debt? And is it true that you are importing this road tolling that you did in Johannesburg to the Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, I would say to Honorable Ndlozi that the issue of a referendum has not even been an issue that has been considered. And it is out of the question anyway, when the Gauteng government decided on establishing a panel, and it is the Gauteng government's panel, but they decided to do so, they were responding to the needs and the concerns of ordinary people, and they felt that we needed to look at the economic impact. And that was the overriding reason why they did so. And in doing so, the panel found that, one, the e-toll system had been of great benefit in terms of the building of the roads. It has improved the economy of Gauteng, and it has brought all those other benefits that I spoke about. Now, I don't believe that the roads have been privatized. Sanral is a wholly owned state enterprise or company that has been given the task of, as an agency of improving and building our roads. And in the main, they are doing a fantastic job, and they are rolling out roads throughout the country. Now you ask a question of whether in the KZN and in the Western Cape, the same is going to obtain. I have not looked at the internal plans of Sanral. What I do know is that Sanral does need to raise funding. It raises funding through bonds on international markets and the local market, and in doing so, they are raising these funds to improve our roads. And if we accept that the user pay principle should apply, and our people, ordinary people, are not opposed to the user pay principle. They say that we are prepared to pay. And in this case, they said the tariff that had been set was far too high. That is what the panel found. And when the panel went through the whole process, the government responded, and it responded very positively to say that we have heeded the concerns of our people. We are going to reduce the tariff. And in the end, the national fiscus and the Gauteng fiscus will have to close the gap, because there is going to be a gap. So the hybrid model that we have come up with, where the national fiscus pays, where Gauteng pays, and where the users pay, is a wonderful model where all the three key stakeholders come to the party to pay for our roads. And I think we should accept that we are going to continue improving our roads. These roads have to be paid for. Somehow, all of us are responsible for paying for these roads.
The Honorable Reverend Mishwe.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Deputy President. I must say from the beginning that the ACDP agrees with the user pay principle, even though we do not agree with the e-toll system. We maintain that a fuel levy would have been a better option to pay for Gauteng freeway upgrades for a number of reasons that I do not have time to disclose. The e-toll billing system has had too many flaws that have resulted in motorists being incorrectly billed, and some people who do not even own a vehicle or a driver's license have also received SMSs from Sanral demanding payments. That is why there is still some reluctance to register. Now my question is, does government have an option to prepay over the counter for those motorists who do not want to have an e-toll account or disclose their bank account details, just as cell phone holders can buy airtime without having an account with a service provider? If yes, would such motorists be charged the same tariff as those that have e-toll accounts, and if not, why not?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Yes, thank you very much. People often talk about using the fuel levy. The fuel levy is a general tax that is levied on everyone who purchases fuel. It is a general tax that will be levied on buses, on taxis, and everyone. And in the end, if you were to use the fuel levy for the Gauteng freeway project, you would not be able to exempt those who travel in buses and taxis. And those tend to be the poor people. Now through this system, the way it was crafted, and it's not like, by the way, it's not like the other side has a monopoly of wisdom and knowledge. The issue of a fuel levy was considered. It was considered more thoroughly than you have even thought about. We considered it so thoroughly that we realized that it would discriminate against the poor and lower income families. Because if you utilize the fuel levy, you are going to have the bus drivers, the bus owners, and the taxi owners are going to up their tariffs. Now with this, buses are exempted, taxis are exempted. In other words, those poor people are exempted from paying for the e-tolls. So you can eat your heart out. They are exempted. Now coming back to the point that Reverend Misha raises. Reverend Misha raises a very important point, and for those who want to listen to the Honorable Good Reverend, they should listen. The Honorable Member Misha is saying, what about prepaying for those who may not want to pay through e-tag, through their credit card or whatever? Yes, there would be such a facility in the full body of the payment methods, which we are encouraging people to opt for. We are saying, go and update your records. Go and update your records at the Sanral offices, at the vehicle registration office, go to the post office, go to retail stores, and update your records. And when you do, you will then be able to indicate what payment method suits you best. What has not been fully considered, Honorable Measure, is whether you get a discount if you prepay. I mean, that is certainly a wonderful idea that can be given consideration to. And I thank Reverend Measure for coming up with that. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Kubisa.
Honorable Deputy President, from the very onset, you said the panel found that there is going to be a burden to the low-income household earners. But I did not hear the recommendation as to what is it that can be done to ameliorate or to obviate such burdens. Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, yes, indeed, it is true that the panel found that the e-toll system as then configured did impose a disproportionate burden on the low-income earners or households. And it is precisely this that the government has responded to. The government has heeded that. It has heeded the concerns that were being raised. At the time, the cap was 450 Rand. And what did the government do? It said, we will reduce it to 225 and we will absorb part of the burden, and we will ask the Gauteng government to absorb part of the burden, so that we have a tripartite approach to this, where the user pays for a portion, where the central government pays for another portion, and indeed, where the Gauteng government also pays. So in this process, in this new dispensation, it is a dispensation that is a hybrid that invites all the key stakeholders to come to the party and pay something. So that was heeded with the new dispensation that was announced.
We now come to question number 11, which has been asked by the Honorable C.D. Kekana.
Honorable Speaker, may I please address you before the next question is answered?
If you want to raise a supplementary matter, can you wait until he answers? Then you can raise a matter in the process of the supplementary questions.
No, I promise you, Honorable Speaker, it's not a supplementary matter.
What is it?
It's an explanation on the basis of Rule 69. Because the Honorable Deputy President did not answer how much do we owe, and we asked that and he did not answer. How much does Sanral owe?
Honorable Ndlozi,
And when is it going to be paid?
Honorable Ndlozi,
So
the Deputy President might not have given you the answer you wanted, but he has answered. He has been answering. So please take your seat.
and the
And let's
commodification
proceed.
question?
Honorable Ndlozi, please take your seat. Honorable Kekana
Honorable Speaker.
has asked this question number 11.
Speaker, actually, I saw now the Deputy President admits that he did not answer the question about how much is Sanral owing and when is that money going to be paid and completed.
Honorable
It's not that he never answered at all.
Honorable
he never even tried to
Shibabu,
do so.
that is not the issue. I mean, it's not dependent on the Deputy President agreeing with the question asked by
But
Honorable
what is the
Ndlozi.
purpose of this question session when people are
Honorable
just going to ignore
Shibambu,
us
please
then?
take your seat and let's proceed with the
But
question.
what is the purpose of a question session if we ask questions here are not being responded to and then we just steamroll and go forward?
Honorable Shibambu, in fact, you will have access to the Deputy President after this question session.
we
And
want
you
him
can
to
ask
answer
all
here.
manner of questions.
We don't want
More
access to
questions
him. We
you
want him to
ask
answer
him.
questions here.
Honorable Shibambu, please take your seat.
You know,
Please.
this culture of unaccountability is
Please
very problematic.
take your seat, Honorable
very
Shibambu.
wrong.
Please take your seat. Honorable Chief Whip.
On a point of order, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Ndlozi and Honorable Shibambu are taking a chance. Rule 69 has nothing to do with what they're talking about. They're taking a big chance. In fact, they expect you not to look at the rule. They are abusing the Deputy President now.
I would like
Honorable
to call.
Speaker.
I would like to call upon the
Honorable
Deputy.
Speaker.
Honorable Maxine, can you please allow me to proceed with the question
I
session?
just want to say something, Speaker.
Honorable Maxine,
We can explain how Rule 69 applies.
I really would like us to proceed with the question session
Yes, I also would like to continue. And
without interruptions that are really unfair.
Speaker, just allow me. Maybe I'm assisting this House.
I should allow you to do what, Honorable Maxine?
Just to say what I want to say, because you are preempting what I'm going to say. I just want to clarify that in terms of Rule 69, the Chief Whip of the ANC is disputing. Maybe I just want to simplify by reading what the rule says.
No,
Because,
Honorable
Speaker,
Maxine.
what you are doing, we should stick to the rules. And you are quoting the rules. It's here.
Honorable
So now we
Maxine.
fail to understand why the Chief Whip of the ANC is distorting everything.
Honorable Maxine, please allow us to proceed with the question session. Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, without seeking to undermine your ruling on this matter, I'm able to tell Honorable Ndlozi that Sanral owes something like 20 billion. And the money has been raised through a variety of bonds that has certain time frames, and some have 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, so an accumulation of all that is 20 billion over a set period, possibly going up to 15 or 20 years. So those are the bond time frames. Honorable Speaker, coming to the next question, since the formal announcement of the expansion of the higher education and training HIV and AIDS program to TVET colleges in 2013 in December, significant progress has been made. The Higher Education AIDS program has been launched in most campuses in the TVET colleges across all our 9 provinces. The program aims to capacitate 20,000 peer educators every year on issues such as HIV and TB, gender-based violence, and teenage pregnancy. It is envisaged that peer educators from colleges in rural communities will disseminate this knowledge amongst members and structures within affected communities. This program was established in response to a concern by the South African National AIDS Council and the Department of Higher Education and Training that TVET colleges were ill-equipped to respond to the HIV, AIDS, and TB challenge that our country faces. As part of the program, a study has recently been conducted on HIV, AIDS knowledge, attitude, and behavior in the TVET sector. This study has identified a number of gaps with regard to HIV and AIDS awareness and will further inform the kinds of interventions that are needed. The South African National AIDS Council has supported this program by raising funds from the Global Fund, as SANEC is responsible for ensuring all departments implement their programs as part of the National Strategic Plan on for HIV, TB, and sexually transmitted diseases. The Higher Education AIDS program will be monitored to ensure that it reaches rural village campuses, especially in areas that are most affected by HIV. SANAC will also work with local AIDS councils to ensure that TVET programs are integrated with their communities. And I must add that the local aid councils that operate at provincial, at district, and at local level have proven to be the most effective methods in which we can spread AIDS awareness. Particularly, they work well in provinces such as KZN through the Sukuma Sake campaign that has been successfully launched and working extremely well. And we've adopted that at SANAC as a model that we want to spread throughout the country. And yesterday at the South African AIDS Conference, we applauded the work that is also being done, not only by the Sukuma Sake campaign, but also through the Zazi campaign, where young women are encouraged to participate in the AIDS campaign to reduce further infections. So a lot of work is underway in this regard, Honorable Speaker. I think we are going to start seeing a lot of progress in this regard. Thank you very much.
Honorable Kekana.
Honorable Speaker, the follow-up question to the Honorable Deputy President is on the preventative measures. Modern medicine prioritizes the approach of using preventative rather than curative method. So in other words, don't wait until people are sick and spend resources curing them. If you can prevent people from getting sick. What preventative measures are we going to effect on this AIDS program to ensure that we're using preventative method rather than curative method? Thanks.
Honorable Deputy President.
SANAC is focusing its campaign, particularly its strategic plan, national strategic plan, on the whole question of prevention. And prevention in the form of making sure that people get tested and they know their status, and if they are found to be positive, they must immediately be subjected to a whole health program that would end up with them being on treatment. So we're focusing more attention on prevention and raising awareness. And this is going to be the main area of focus by SANEC. SANEC as it operates through its various structures throughout the country. We have done well in the past in this regard. We were able to test up to 20 million South Africans, and we are hoping as time moves on that we will even be testing more. As we speak now, many more people are getting tested. We've already done almost 9 million, and we are hoping that with time we'll be able to test many more people. It is through raising the levels of awareness also amongst the group that is more at risk, young people, particularly in universities, TVET colleges, and indeed the youth that are very vulnerable. So we are going to be embarking on a huge campaign of raising awareness. Unfortunately, in this regard, we've got a lot of partners in this campaign. And we're going to be mobilizing not only those partners that are known, but also other partners. And this is where we call upon everyone. Everyone who sits in this parliament is a leader. And as a leader, take onto yourself the responsibility to spread the message that we should raise the awareness of HIV much higher than what it is at the moment. And if we do that, we will see the incidence of infection coming down, thus even reducing the burden on the fiscus to continue funding healthcare, particularly antiretroviral medicines. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Nkomo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, I think the matter of HIV/AIDS, which is quite an emotional matter, a matter that we've known about for more than 35 years, has actually shown that probably we may have started wagging the tail of the dog instead of the dog wagging the tail. The issue here is that when we talk about safer sex or the issues around prevention with safer sex, we're talking in terms of young people or people that are already sexually active. My question is around those that are not sexually active, those that would like to keep from being not sexually active as long as possible. What is this organization doing in order to ensure that we actually keep our young people free from HIV by choice, not because they've been infected, because they were sexually active? That is quite important. Secondly, in Uganda many years back, they controlled HIV infections without even the use of condoms. That is why I'm going to the safe sex methods, which I would like the Deputy President to actually address. Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
The issue of keeping those who are not infected to remain uninfected is a critical one, and it is part of the campaign that we're going to be embarking on. It is very critical and important, therefore, that we embark on raising the level of awareness of all our people, that they should get to a point of knowing their status, and once confirmed that you are not infected, we want people to remain uninfected, and the variety of methods that should be utilized or clearly is abstention. Abstain, particularly to young people, abstain as long as possible. Yes, in Uganda, they utilized that type of messaging where they were able to mobilize many young people or many people in Uganda to abstain, and therefore that has been proven to be a great method of preventing infection. And we are also, particularly when it comes to young people, going to be doing so. It is a fact in our country that young people do participate in sexual relations at a fairly young age, and we are finding that the incidence of infection are beginning to tick up at that young age, and particularly amongst young girls who, because of either their environmental situations or economic situations find that they are more sort of susceptible to having relations with older men. That is where the incidence is increasing. So we want to reach those young women, and the Zazi campaign that I spoke about, the Zazi campaign, which has been proven to be so effective in KZN, speaks and addresses itself precisely to this challenge. How do we get young people to abstain? And those who are participating in the Zazi campaign are finding that it is both meaningful, it is impactful, because it is fairly comprehensive and does not only focus on sexuality, but focuses on broader issues as well. And the real challenge for us, Honorable Speaker, is to make sure that over the next few years, particularly leading up to 2030, we should have reduced the level of infection and make sure that those young people who will be adults in 2030 will have lived through their young teenage years as well as their young adult years without having been infected. So reducing infection is part of our focus in SANEC, and we are going to be embarking on a huge campaign, and this is where I once again repeat the call on all of us to participate in the campaign to reduce infection and raise the level of awareness. Thank you.
The Honorable Chewade.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, just one question from me. What is the practical measures that the government is undertaking to enforce higher education to continue extensive research, not on the containment of the virus, but on the actual cure itself? Because HIV is an African problem and mostly a South African problem. And South African University must take a leading role. South African universities must take a leading role on the research for cure of the problem and make sure that they also integrate with communities, because there are many people, including traditional healers, who claim that they've got breakthroughs on the question of cure of HIV. And I want to find out from the current government, what measures are there in place to enforce research on the actual cure, and in line with your own admission that HIV is a huge burden on the fiscals of the country. I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
HIV is a global problem. I think that needs to be said. Those who believe that HIV is an African problem are misinformed. It is a global problem. There are many countries around the world who are facing this challenge. And if you recall in history, it first surfaced in terms of our knowledge in the United States of America. The great United States of America, that is where it surfaced. So it has gripped many countries around the world. We may well have the highest burden of many countries in the world, but our response in terms of addressing this challenge is being applauded by World Health Organization, the UN, as being the most effective. And so therefore we are doing a lot more than appears maybe on your surface, but we are working at it. Is there anything that is being done on research? Yes, not one, not two things. A plethora of research initiatives are currently underway here in South Africa. And soon there will be announcements that will show and prove that we are getting to grips with the research component. Many of our scientists, many of our doctors, many of our researchers are at work day and night to find a vaccine, yes, to find a cure, but we are doing quite a lot of work. And some of those universities are working so hard. And the Minister of Science and Technology here, if you want to know, will share even more knowledge on this at an appropriate time. because through her ministry, she's got line of sight of a number of initiatives that are currently underway, including at the indigenous medicine level. A lot is being done. So we are not sitting on our laurels as a country. We are actively participating. And let me add by saying, we are also in partnership with many other scientists and researchers around the world from a number of countries. But they also come here to draw inspiration, to draw strength from what we are doing. So a lot is being done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Volmink.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In September last year, our colleague, the Honourable Wilmot James, asked the Honourable Deputy President what SANIC and the Health Department's plans were with regards to addressing the fact that 46%, that's almost half, of the pregnant women in the Hertsebane municipality in Mpumalanga are HIV positive. This is one of the highest rates in the country. In his reply, as recorded here in the Hansard, the Deputy President stated that he would engage with the Minister on the situation in Hertsebane and submit a report to this House on the steps implemented to address this problem. Now, reaching out to the Hertsebane TVET College located in the municipality's area will of course help with the crisis, but can he now give us an update? Specifically, has he produced a report for this House as promised? And what concrete action has actually been undertaken to address this crisis? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Following the answers that I gave, I did go to Hertsebane, and in fact, SANIC held its plenary session there, and we were able not only to interact with people in the community, but other key stakeholders, including companies in the area, and that finally led to one of the companies agreeing to revamp the clinic where many of these women go for treatment or for testing. So that is now being built and it's underway. A report is not ready at the moment. It is work in progress. It is something that I have also chosen to focus on because we found that it is in Mpumalanga, or particularly Hertsebane, where the incidence has been higher than it is in any other part of the country. So I can say that the report will be forthcoming in that regard, but we are focused on the matter, and the Minister of Health has made it an area of particular focus. So it will be forthcoming. Thank you very much.
We now come to the last question to the Honorable Deputy President, which has been asked by the Honorable Mbinda. The Honorable Deputy President.
State-owned enterprises are an important part of our economy and remain an essential to advancing the government's industrialization program and also broader economic development objectives. That has to be stated. And we do this within the purview of a mixed economy thrust, which we have been committed to for years. Over the past 10 years, parastatals have accelerated investments in the economy, which has fueled growth and helped to mitigate the impact of the 2008 global financial crisis. Over the past 4 years, state-owned enterprises have invested no less than 470 billion rand in the economy. After a long drought of lack of investment during the apartheid years. While South Africa's state-owned companies have been largely successful in carrying forward the mandate of the developmental state, there has also been a number of challenges. That has to be admitted. These challenges have been identified in the Presidential Review Committee on State-Owned Enterprises, which has made a number of far-reaching recommendations. The Cabinet Lekgotla held earlier this year mandated the Office of the Deputy President to oversee the implementation of these recommendations. As we reported in the Presidency Budget vote debate, notable progress has been made in turning around the Eskom, and I did say that the appointment of the acting CEO has been a really good shot in the arm of Eskom. South African Airways and the South African Post Office are also being turned around. With the support of the War Room located in the presidency, progress has been made in the implementation of the government's 5-point plan on electricity particularly, as well as the elements of government support packages. Governance and leadership challenges at Eskom are being addressed as we speak. In addition, government has tabled the bills for the appropriation of 23 billion equity injection it committed to provide to Eskom, and the amendment of the bill for the conversion to equity of the subordinated loan. Both these interventions will strengthen Eskom's financial position. Government is firmly on track with the sale of assets to fund the allocation to Eskom, which will ensure that there is no impact on the budget deficit. Other examples of progress made include improvements in performance at Majuba and the Duba power stations, and extension of the independent power producer contracts. The going concern status of SAA has been restored through the 90-day action plan, and there have been cost savings of up to 1.2 billion. The long-term turnaround strategy is being refined and has been encapsulated into the company's corporate plans. Under the leadership of the administrator, a strategic turnaround plan has been developed for the post office. A thorough diagnostic review was undertaken, and a business model that is better suited for the changing postal service environment has been developed. There are a number of reasons why some state-owned enterprises underperform, and some of them are the high operating costs, the poor operational performance, unclear policy frameworks, and the governance processes as well. In December, the Cabinet Lekgotla established a task team to develop common principles to make sure that we address all these problems. We must dispel the myth that people who run parastatals are ill-equipped to do so, because there are quite a number of people who hold that view. Many of those people are good professionals, and what they need is they need to be supported, they need to be assisted in the work that they are doing. An honest assessment of leadership in our parastatals will prove that this is not true. Many of our parastatals are operating extremely well, and we can name them. The Transnet, the Sasrias, and many others are doing extremely well. And we've got good professionals in many of these parastatals. Let us support them in doing their work. Thank you.
The Honorable Mbinda.
Thanks, Honorable Speaker. No, I'm fine. Otherwise, but the problem that I have, Deputy President, is that even this current government now is injecting a lot of billions and billions in trying to bail some of these parastatals. But on the other hand, you are saying, they are doing well, they are contributing to the economy of the country, and also I understand about the infrastructural development, but at the same time, the capital injection that we are putting in some of these, parastatals. But a person like myself is sitting
Do you have a question, Honorable Member? Your minute is almost over. Do you have a question, follow-up question?
I do. Can you give me another minute?
No.
To ask the question now.
No, Honorable Member. Well, Honorable Deputy President, I don't think there's a question for you to answer, but you can comment on whatever the Honorable Member has said to you.
I am able to comment on the comment and say that I took heart and a great deal of comfort from his opening statement that he does not have a real problem with what I was saying. But let me also say that, yes, it may well appear like we're pumping billions and billions, and in fact it is true. But that is how the economy functions. Sometimes, even in a normal company, there are times when shareholders are expected to pump money into a company so that they shore it up for better days to come. Now let's look at the headline yesterday. A company that we used to own almost wholly and now partially own, Telkom, declared a wonderful dividend of 245 cents per share. And that is a dividend that is going to flow to the fiscus. Yes, you can look at a number of other companies as well. You look at the Sasrias of this world, they have declared 15 billion rand to the fiscus, and some of the companies go through challenges. And so it goes with economic performance or business performance of companies. They go through ups and downs, and it does not mean that when they go through their downtime that you've got to jettison them and throw them away. It means that you've got to refocus, and that is what happens with companies. You will not find even a single company on the stock exchange that is forever making profits year in and year out. They do go through slumps, and sometimes they go to their own shareholders with rights offers and say, we would like you as shareholders to pump money. Now, what we are saying here is that these state-owned enterprises we are now focusing attention on them through Treasury, through the various other structures that the President has set up. We are going to turn them around. That is a reality. They are going to be turned around. Thank you.
The Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Deputy President, arising from your response, there are indeed success stories, and Telkom is a good example of that. However, we now see that Petro SA is expecting to announce a massive loss of between 9 and 14.9 billion, which is estimated to be the largest ever loss incurred by a state-owned company. This situation highlights what you've mentioned about issues about governance, where we see there's a boardroom drama in which the energy minister has asked 3 executives to take extended leave. 2 of the 3, significantly the CEO and the CFO, have refused to vacate their offices. Now, Honourable Deputy President, is this not yet another example of poor appointments by a board, of issues of governance that you pointed out, possibly lack of oversight? And is this not resulting in another parastatal that will require a turnaround strategy? But here we see a significant loss from a company that was doing very well. Now, I appreciate this might not be mentioned, this might not be a direct follow-up question, but the principle, I think, needs to apply as we look at this. And will this task team possibly look at this company which is facing the severe loss? Thank you, Deputy President.
Honourable Deputy President.
Many companies that are involved in the oil sector have faced many challenges, and many are facing losses of huge proportions. But as the question really, the follow-up is not really related to this, but to the process, let me address myself to that. The process clearly is you need to look at governance. The Presidential Review on State-Owned Enterprises has come up with a number of good recommendations in this regard, and those will be implemented as well, and they will also touch on companies like the one that you have just referred to. So it's going to be more broad and comprehensive, and it will address itself to the key principles of governance, yes, good appointments, and making sure that through the governance process, we are able to identify problems and challenges at an early stage. And when it comes to the economics of the company itself, clearly, You have to rely on those who are in the governance structures to identify risky business deals and risky decisions that have been taken. So we will be focusing on all those as part of going through the recommendations of the Presidential Review Commission on State-Owned Enterprises.
The Honorable Mazom.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Deputy President. Deputy President, unfortunately, Eskom's just announced that stage 2 load shedding is about to happen, so I hope we have enough time with the lights on that I can finish my question. Eskom also yesterday very patronizingly advised South Africans that we should wear warm clothes and make fires. And that will solve our electricity crisis during the winter months. I find that kind of statement unacceptable. And I think many South Africans, Deputy President, are now in the very similar situation, where we're wondering if this war room is anything more than a simple PR exercise that unfortunately has gone quite wrong. Because we stand here today not knowing what the situation with Medupi and Kusile is. All that we know is the deadline keeps getting moved further and further away. We know that our economy is suffering disastrous effects from this constant load shedding that we are being faced with. We haven't had a parliamentary briefing, not to the energy portfolio, not to public enterprises portfolio, as to what the actual role of the war room is. And we'd like to know from you, Deputy President, when are you going to give South Africans the kind of surety they so crave? And when are we going to have some kind of surety that we can give to our investors, both foreign and local, so that in some way our economy can grow and we can bypass this disastrous curve that we now find ourselves in? Because not only do we shed electricity every day, we shed jobs at an alarming rate. And something has to be done, Deputy President. And when you announced your war room, you will know that I and the Democratic Alliance welcome this, because we look to you as a beacon of light, if you'll pardon the pun, in a very dark time. But so far, Deputy President, you haven't given us much to be hopeful about. And you, Minister Radebe announced the 5-point plan. I would like to know from you, how far are we with this 5-point plan? Have we actually achieved anything of this the 5-point plan? And what can we expect going forward for the next 6 months at the very least?
Honorable Deputy President.
The issues that you've raised, Honorable Member, have been canvassed quite extensively in this Parliament. Not only the Minister of Public Enterprises, but the Minister of Energy, and indeed the President himself, has stood in this podium and addressed this issue, and has said, this is a challenge that we all face as South Africans, and we are not sleeping on the job. We are working at it. Now you raise the issue of the 5-point plan. One of the things, or some of the things we've been doing in regard to the 5-point plan is to look at the challenge of maintenance. And so you know, with time we found that with regard to maintenance, there had been a bit of a slack. But the war room started focusing on that. And in the end, we found it was decided that your technical people, your managers, must now go to the power stations and work there. And the acting CEO has made it his job to go to each power station, or one power station after another, every Friday. So he's there, focused on the job. Meaning that the task of maintenance of our power stations is being looked at. And remember that many of our power stations are 30 years and older, and they therefore need quite a lot of maintenance. And the original equipment manufacturers have been roped in quite extensively to work with Eskom to make sure that we maintain our power plants, our power stations, and this is being done on a programmatic basis. One of the things that has been looked at is the liquidity of Eskom. I mean, let's face it, Eskom has faced financial challenges, and the liquidity challenge has been addressed ad nauseum by Treasury. The Minister of Finance has stood here and has piloted a bill, as I was saying earlier. And we've had to look at the demand side. The demand side is something that is being looked at actively. How do we manage the demand side equation? And one of the other key and important things is to see how we bring in other independent power producers. Now, we've signed agreements with those independent power producers. We are now going to rope them in so that they continue feeding the grid with the power that they produce. Now, we're also focusing on co-generators. Now, co-generation means that we are relying on other role players, it could be companies and what have you, to come to the party to help us generate more energy. Now, at the same time, we're looking at Medupi, we're looking at Ngula, and we're looking at Kusile. And progress is being made on an ongoing basis. And yes, there have been rollouts in terms of time that we were not ready as we were meant to be, and there are quite a number of reasons for that. Part of that is that we lost some skills. Some of the people left the company, and therefore we've had to plug that hole. And let me give you the assurance that, yes, much as we are going through load shedding, that is going to be a problem that stays with us for the next year, 18 months to 2 years. That is something that we will not be able to run away from. But beyond that, South Africa will have sufficient energy. You have to travel around the world and find that we are not the only country that is facing energy crisis. I promise you we are not. You can go to the great United States of America, you can go to Europe, you can go to Southeast Asia. Many countries have gone through the challenges that we are going through. But the good thing with us, we are not sitting on our backsides. We are addressing these problems. This we are going to continue doing.
Honorable Singh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I note that the Honorable Deputy President is in quite an aggressive mood this afternoon. I don't know what prompted it. Maybe he got up on the wrong side of the bed. But having said that, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Deputy President, we agree that yes, there are good professionals in SOEs, but they are few and far between. Because this is evidence from the number of suspensions that we've seen, the number of resignations that we've seen. You are fully aware of what happened at Eskom when the former chairperson of the board suspended 4 senior officials of Eskom, including the CEO. What is the outcome of that inquiry? Nothing will happen. In fact, the former CEO has been given a golden handshake. Now, Honorable Deputy President, this doesn't gel well with the public of South Africa and with us as members of Parliament when there's prima facie evidence for an inquiry, for people to be suspended, and then things are swept under the carpet and people are given golden handshakes. What is your view on this kind of practice that is taking place? Further, Honorable Deputy President, the whole issue of appointing people to these boards. If one has to look at the SOEs and the number of people that are appointed to these boards, a number of individuals are appointed on multiple boards. How can they do justice to serving on these boards when they are appointed on multiple boards? Something needs to be done about the appointment of board members and the appointment of managers, because it's not only about the 23 billion that you're going to give Eskom or any more money that's going to be thrown into SOEs, but it is about poor management in many of these SOEs. Thank you, Honorable Deputy.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Well, on the first issue of skills, let me just say, since his appointment, the acting CEO of Eskom has gone ahead to do something quite unique, because as soon as he was appointed, he combed the whole of Eskom for skills, and he found a number of young people who he has now put in a forum, the CEO's forum, skills, rare skills, engineering skills, and environmental skills, and so forth. And these are young people of all colors that he's now working with in a very focused way. And as he goes to each power station, he goes with these young people, and they are coming up with new, fresh ideas. Now, they have just recently qualified. Some of them have got maybe 3-5 years experience. Those who left had 20 years experience and so forth. And yes, we have lost those skills for a number of reasons, but he's focusing on restoring the capability of Eskom when it comes to technical and engineering capability of the electricity type. So that is being focused on, and that is why I said that the appointment of that type of CEO has been a shot in the arm of Eskom. So we are going to see some good things coming out of Eskom. That I promise you, because I've seen, and many of us have seen, how he works and how he functions. You talk about golden handshakes. Yes, the laws in our country dictate that when you have to get rid of people, there are certain provisions that you've got to follow, certain laws. It may well appear like, yes, giving people golden handshakes and it's expensive. Yes, that may well be the case, but we've got to follow due process and the laws that we've got. And we think that in the end, when you're trying to secure a better future for the company, at times it may well be worth to go down this route. Yes, there are people who sit on multiple boards, and that we've become aware of. And because in terms of the Presidential Review Commission that looked at state-owned enterprises, we are reviewing the quality of board members that we would like to have in these state-owned enterprises. We are going to become more focused, we are going to become more choosy, we are going to look more introspectively at the skill base of those people so that we choose the best of breed. The best of breed must be people who will come into these boards and make a real meaningful contribution. They must not just bring their pretty faces, but they must bring the skills that they can bring to bear on these state-owned enterprises. So I welcome your suggestion in this regard, and it is something that we will continue to focus on to make sure that our boards get better for these state-owned enterprises.
That concludes questions to the Deputy President, and I thank the Honorable Deputy President for hard work this afternoon.
Honorable Speaker, you forgot one more question, because it's supposed to be 4.
No, we've done all supplementaries. I can tell you the people, Honorable, the original person who had asked the question was given an opportunity, Honorable Swart, Honorable Mazone, Honorable Singh.
Oh, I was under the impression that the follow-up did not ask a question. Even the Deputy President admitted.
He commented, and the Deputy President...
But this is not a comment session, it's a question session.
We took the time, Honorable Ndozi, and we are now moving to questions to ministers in the economics cluster, cluster 4. Question number 140 has been asked by the Honorable Hlengwa of the IFP to the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. I have, honorable members, been informed that the Minister and Deputy Minister are not available to answer questions. Therefore, questions asked to the Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries will stand over. So we now move to question number 164.
Sorry, point of order, Madam Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Steenhuisen.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, we had a discussion in the Chief Whip's forum this morning around this matter. Now, it's one thing to say that it stands over, but the problem is a question like this cannot stand over till the next time the minister's in the House. And so we would ask that in this particular instance you commit, in terms of Rule 1093, that the question will in fact stand over to the next question session and that time would be added, given the fact that neither the Minister or his deputy are here, to ensure that we can actually hold ministers accountable in the House.
Fine, I note that issue and I will look into it, Honorable Steenhuisen. We now move to question number 164, which has been asked by the Honorable TV Tobias to the Minister of Finance.
No, on the point of order, Speaker.
What's the point of order?
No, Speaker, we're adamant that there has to be a proper resolution on this matter. Both the Minister and the Deputy Minister got a prior knowledge of this session. They knew the questions. They had an option of getting another minister to answer on their behalf. Or even the Deputy President, who is the leader of government business, should have made sure that Parliament gets its question. Now, the Chief Whip of the opposition majority party asks you to take a resolution that in the next question session, those ministers must provide the answer as per the rules. You say you will look into it.
I will look
I
into
think that
it.
we must be firm. We must say that that's exactly what's going to happen.
Honorable Dlozi.
Because we must hold these ministers accountable. If we don't do that, then we don't even know why they are not here. It's not even explained to the country. Are they sick? Are they on holiday? What's happening? They just decide not to come to parliament like that. It can't be.
Honorable Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We received a letter of apology and a medical certificate from the minister who was prepared to come to the House to respond to the questions. As for the deputy minister, he is abroad. So the other issue that the Honorable Chief Whip of the Opposition raised, Speaker, we will consult with the Speaker's office and the leader of government business. Then we will continue to consult each other on this matter as to when, as to how we proposed in the Chief Whip's forum that the questions must be put in the next week's question session. That will be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip. Honorable members, therefore, we have question number 174, which has been asked, 164, which has been asked by the Honorable Tobias to the Minister of Finance. Honorable Nene.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. To the question asked by Honorable Tobias, indeed, with regards to the announcement during the introduction of the budget, the 23 billion rands, we did table the appropriation bill, the special appropriation bill last week. And for any company, if I were to state the obvious, to be sustainable, its revenue needs to exceed its costs. The interventions that made up the government support package included Eskom improving efficiency through reducing costs and applying for tariff adjustments in line with regulatory processes, which are key to ensuring that the utility's long-term sustainability is maintained. The equity injection, which we tabled here, will provide immediate and short-term support to the company by strengthening the financial position. In addition to that, we also tabled the bill that seeks to convert the subordinated loan into equity in order to strengthen the balance sheet of Eskom. The second question, the possibility of private investment in Eskom. Indeed, as we have indicated, that these matters are being explored, but at the same time, we are looking at also alternative sources of energy, including cogeneration, IPPs, and other forms of energy generation. Government, on the third question, whether capitalization of Eskom will take place only when funds are realized. Indeed, we maintain the policy as stated in the budget review of 2015 that the allocation of resources will be budget deficit neutral. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Tobias.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for your response. Honorable Minister, I think you agree with me in principle that it is a necessary process to convert the 60 billion Eskom debts to equity to ensure bolstering of its borrowing capacity, to also deal with all these nuances that has been raised about the capacity of Eskom to be able to raise funds to continue with its build program. And it is very clear in this context that government has intervened in ensuring that the public sector invest in the Eskom's build program. But having listened to the Deputy President when he spoke, he even indicated that there will be cogeneration by other sectors that are being canvassed. So do you agree with me that it is important to convert this 60 billion to equity rather than a debt? I thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Indeed, Honorable Member, as I said through your speaker, that Chairperson, House Chair, that the reason is indeed to improve the balance sheet of Eskom, but also in order to enable Eskom to be able to go out into the market as with a balance sheet that is much stronger. And I can also confirm that this matter has actually extensively been dealt with by the Deputy President in his responses on the Eskom matter. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one to ask a supplementary question is Honorable Steyn from the GA.
Chairperson, I actually wanted to ask a question to the Minister of Agriculture, who's not here, so. Can we go to the next person? I pressed the button at the previous one.
Okay, no problem. Honorable Ross, you can take the question.
Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chairperson. And Minister, with regards to the alternative funding models that you've indicated to us, we are glad to say the DA made those proposals with regards to alternative funding in terms of equity or shares, loans over a longer period of time, and indeed also sovereign bonds. And I think it's a step in the right direction with regards to the funding in the Eskom crisis. But Minister, the latest bailout, whether it's sustainable or not, needs to be seen. Only last week we tabled the bill converting the balance of 60 billion rand in terms of a subordinate loan into ordinary shares. Is it sustainable for the fiscus, Minister, or is it indeed credible for the state-owned enterprise to pay back cold money received in terms of a loan now converted into shares? What would be the impact on the fiscus, and is it credible for state-owned entities to shift the burden back to the state in this regard? Is it not shifting money from Peter to Paul to meet the obligations? I thank you.
Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, and thanks for the question. And Honorable Ross, indeed, if it also was a suggestion from the DA, it was confirmation of what we were already doing. But if I were to respond to your question with regards to conversion of subordinated loan into equity, the fact of the matter is that the funds had already flown to Eskom. And what is happening here, rather than keeping that as a loan, whilst Eskom also was not obliged to service the loan since it's a state-owned entity, it is better in order to improve, because all it happens, no funds are going to flow from the fiscus. So it is actually, again, still deficit neutral as we speak. What it does is that it improves the balance sheet by moving it from the liability side to the asset side in order to have a better balance sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The next one is Honorable Msibi from the NFP.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
May I be clarified? It's the second time that Honorable Msibi has been called, and it has been you, Honorable
Yes, Honorable Chairperson, it is myself.
What is happening there?
I'm actually sitting in the seat of Honorable Msibi.
Okay, can we please, for the process to be correct, switch on the button from your own seat so
Okay.
that we don't have these confusions?
Thank you.
But I allow you for now.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, the 23 billion rand equity to Eskom was to come from the sale of non-strategic assets, which will not affect the fiscus. Could you tell us, Honorable Minister, if this has already been sold and whether the money is available in terms of the agreement? The first 10 billion ought to have been paid at the end of June. Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, and thanks, Honorable Msibi. Indeed, we are on track. As the Deputy President also, my apologies.
The name is Imam Sheikh.
Yes, Honorable Imam Sheikh. Indeed, as actually the Deputy President responded to this question when he was responding on the Eskom matter, that we are on track. The sale of non-core state assets are indeed the source of revenue. The purpose of tabling the appropriations bill here in the House was in order to facilitate the transfer of funds as soon as the funds have come into the fiscus. It will happen during the month of June. Thank you.
Thank you. The last one is Honorable Nkomo.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Eskom has proven itself time and again not to be equal to the task of meeting our national energy requirements. How can we ensure value for money in funding Eskom over the next 5, 10 or 15 years from now, noting the bailouts that are coming to Eskom from government? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
I think several reports have come before Parliament to indicate that Eskom has turned the corner and it is indeed in better shape than in the past. We are therefore convinced that with the work that both the process led by the Deputy President, the War Room, we all have put our hands on deck in order to make sure that Eskom is able to indeed deliver on its mandate. And we are likely to be reporting progress in this regard in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question has been asked by the Honorable Swart to the Minister of Finance. Question number 174. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. The question has to do with the impact of load shedding estimated to have on slowing the country's economic growth rate to 1.3%. The answer to your first question, Honorable Swart, our estimates indicate that the electricity shortages as a result of electricity supply constraints will shave between 0.5% and 1% from annual real GDP growth in 2015. This has been accounted for in our 2015 budget review forecast. Had electricity not been a binding constraint on the economy, our real GDP growth could have ranged between 2.5% and 3% for this year. On a quarterly basis, this translates into growth of between 2.3% and 2.9% in the first quarter of 2015. Therefore, it is estimated that quarter one load shedding subtracted between 0.8 and 1.6 percentage points from seasonally adjusted and annualized quarterly growth in the first quarter. Second question, electricity indeed remains the key constraint to growth and was the primary reason for growth of 1.3% in the first quarter of 2015. Agriculture was also negatively affected, in addition to this, by severe drought conditions which adversely affected summer crops such as maize and sunflower. Indicators also show that consumers continue to be weighed down by high debt levels and low employment growth, which also contribute to this low growth that we're talking about. Investment is constrained by low confidence and expectations of subdued demand at home. To your third question, at the time of the budget, we expected the real GDP to grow by 2% in 2015. The first quarter outcome of 1.3% was indeed in line with National Treasury's expectation for growth as we had anticipated the electricity supply constraints and had built it into our forecasts. We therefore believe that 2% is still a realistic and attainable growth outcome for 2015. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, we've dealt a lot with the load shedding and the Eskom issues, and we understand from the Deputy President that it's going to be ongoing for 18 months to 2 years, and you have correctly conceded that it is a severe constraint. You also indicated that manufacturing was directly impacted by load shedding, but we also had the drought impacting the maize harvest. Do you not agree that without a sustainable economic growth of way above 2%, I think the NDP speaks about 5%, there can be little prospect of significant job creation? And my second question related to the impact on revenue targets, but you have to a certain degree answered that because you've indicated that the constraints caused by load shedding have already been built into your growth targets. But are you still satisfied with the progress that Eskom is making in turning around that your target figure for economic growth, which will impact on revenue collection, is still on track? Thank you very much.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Indeed, as you correctly point out, we do need growth much higher than the 2% that we have projected. But we are being realistic here, and we are saying with the constraints that are currently obtaining on the ground, it is unlikely that we would be able to realize growth that would exceed 2%. But I think what's important also is to look at the quality of the growth. The 2% growth has the potential of creating jobs if it is inclusive enough. It is for that reason that we are focusing on other sectors that would either be less energy intensive but will have a higher rate of job absorption, like agriculture, as we've pointed out, and I think we are on track. And indeed, revenue, we are concerned, but we think we're still on track because we had priced it in our projections. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Maxon.
Thank you very much, House Chair. You know, in the Standing Committee on Finance, we asked you, Minister, on what exactly are you going to privatize out of Eskom? And he did not give the response. We wrote to you, he did not give the response. Your own Secretary General, Mr. Mantashe, said publicly that privatization of Eskom or any of its assets is not consistent with your own policies. Your labor desk, COSATU, now recently when you spoke at the World Economic Forum, they opposed you as well about privatization. Now, and like, what are you going to privatize, and what is the purpose of such? Because as is evidenced now with the 4,000 jobs that were lost in telecom,
Honorable
the Deputy
Member,
President
please
says,
ask the question. Your 1 minute is over by 6 seconds.
was still saying that as is evidenced by the 4,000 jobs that were lost in telecom, which the Deputy President says is dividends. What are we going to privatize in Eskom, and what is the purpose of such privatization? Haven't we gone through enough pain as the country of outsourcing and privatizing key state enterprises? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's all remember before you answer, the supplementary question is only 1 minute, and it's important that you really ask that supplementary question. Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chair, and thanks to the Honorable Member for the question, even though the question in his letter and the question is actually not very clear. Because we said this 23 billion rands will come from the disposal of non-core state assets. If your interpretation of the disposal of non-core state assets is privatization, then we do not have the same interpretation of the words. But as we said, that because of the market sensitivity of the matter, we will not divulge that until such time that we have concluded the matter. And everyone accepts that, because when we talk about price sensitivity of assets of the nature that we are handling, everybody understands that that would have a negative impact on the price of the asset itself. It is for that reason that everybody understands, this Parliament understands, and it is for that reason that we were able to present this to Parliament and the committee at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Ross.
Chairperson, order.
Honorable Ross, take your seat.
On the point of order,
Yes, Honorable Shibambu.
Is it parliamentary for a minister who is supposed to account to this House to every time withhold information on the basis that is market sensitive? Which rules cover such? Because we're here to demand answers on what is going to be privatized. He calls it disposal and everything else. What is he going to dispose? He must tell us so that we know how we're going to hold the executive accountable if we can't be told basic information of what is going to be disposed out of state-owned enterprises. All of us here as a collective, we have an obligation to take care of this country. But if a minister who's supposed to account to us just comes here and say that, I can't tell you because it's market sensitive, what accountability is that?
Thank you. Your point is made. Honorable Shibambu, please a little bit, Honorable Ross. I understand your concern, and I think it's something, but we cannot force the minister from where I'm sitting to answer something as he has answered. Maybe it's not what you wanted to hear, but we believe that through other methods you can do that. Maybe you'll be responded to correctly. Thank you.
Honorable Chairperson.
Yes, Honorable.
May you please not leave it like that?
No.
Can you please go check and come back to us? Don't say you can't force a minister to disclose.
For now.
So we're requesting that you go back, check the thorough rules, because they've got an obligation in terms of, as far as
That's
I know,
not a point
a
of
lot
order.
of legal legislation, including the rules,
Okay. No,
to
thank
give us
you.
information. How do you dispose our assets? And say, I can't tell you which assets I'm
Honorable
going to
Ndlozi,
dispose.
thank you. Now you are
They are
asking
our
another
assets.
question.
Please.
Honorable Ndlozi, please.
Honorable-
I can't really
Yeah,
answer
that's
that.
fine.
Thank you very
Can
much.
you please, Honorable Chair, as a second issue, can you please protect me from, I don't know the member's name. Can you please protect me from him because we're going to degenerate?
I don't-
Listen, I can't take that.
What is it, Honorable Ndlozi?
He keeps telling me sit down. He can't do that. Honorable Chief Whip,
Honorable members.
can you please call them together because we're going to degenerate.
Okay, thank you.
I can't be told sit down by you.
Honorable Ndlozi.
You hear that?
Honorable Ndlozi.
No
Order,
problem.
honorable members, order. Allow me to chair, please, honorable members. Honorable Ross, it's your time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for allowing me to talk,
Chairperson.
talk about the very important issue of economic growth.
Order.
Honorable Ross, please sit. Honorable Shibambo.
Honorable Ndlozi rose on a point of order
Yes.
and gave you guidance on how you handle some of these issues, right? Don't take knee-jerk responses and say we can't demand the information that we need to hear here in this parliament.
Honorable member,
Can we
thank
set
you.
a process so that when we come back here, we are told as parliament of what exactly is going to be disposed
You know,
of?
honorable-
Because it's a simple process.
Thank
don't,
you.
Don't make ridiculous decisions from there because
No,
you won't sustain them.
now the language that you are using doesn't want me to respond the way I want to. Please sit, let me respond to you.
Please do.
When I responded to Honorable Ndlozi, it's true. I cannot, as the chairperson, instruct the minister to answer in a certain way. And that is why I said that I understand, I note that, and we will check into that. And it doesn't have to come even to this house for that explanation. And I got what Mr. Ndlozi was saying. Please allow us to continue. Thank you. Honorable Ross?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At last we can talk about the very important issues in the country, and that's a slowing growth in the economy, which deserves our attention and our full attention. Now, the last quarter presented 1.3% of gross domestic growth, and of course the rating agencies also noted this. And this is a very important issue for rating agencies because it affirmed the country's BBB rating and it cited the most important issue in terms of constraining growth was inadequate and unstable electricity supply. But it also indicated, Minister, policy proposals currently under discussion that had adverse impact on growth. And those policy proposals were with regards to the parts of the mineral resource law, visa regulations, a minimum wage, and amendments to the labour law, and of course land reform. Fitch also noted, of course, the slow implementation of the National Development Plan, and I think we're putting our full effort with regards to turning that around, having the implementation of the National Development Plan. Minister, the question to you is then, however, how do you intend to repair the damage done by the confused and often contradiction with regards to policy making in all these different aspects that Fitch has alluded us to? Thank you.
Before you answer the Honorable Minister, I just want to say that I've been very patient with the preambles that you make. They really take time into your 1 minute, and I've allowed all of you to pose your questions at the end. But it means we are not sticking to the time. Please, honorable members, everyone who's going to ask a supplementary question, your time is 1 minute. The preambles, cut short on them. Honorable Minister?
Thanks again, House Chair, and for the question in relation to, firstly, the ratings agencies do take into account that there are a number of factors that affect or that impact on economic growth. Among the things that they mention, indeed, are domestic factors and our structural reforms that are currently underway. But with regards to the implementation of the National Development Plan, we in this House all know that this is now integrated into our planning in the medium-term strategic framework, in the strategic plans that were tabled before committees, and in the APPs that the committees have been dealing with. So it is now in the process of being implemented, and at times the ratings agencies do miss a point that they expect, in the plans that we continue to say. It is now at implementation stage, and it is upon or on the basis of that committees will hold various departments to account. And also, with regards to policy certainty, at times it's misinterpretation and misunderstanding of our policy positions. And in my view, we actually are coherent in policy formulation and coherent also in the policy that we put before the nation as government. We therefore don't see any point of any policy incoherence or uncertainty.
Thank you. The Minister, the last one is Honorable Kekana.
Thank you, House Chair and Honorable Minister. Thank you for your response. And as a follow-up to your response, Honorable Minister, given that government is implementing the 5-point plan as an integrated strategy in response to the energy emergency, what impact in terms of economic growth will these measures have in achieving a 2% growth rate for 2015? And with regard to the factors and sectors mentioned as contributing to low economic growth in the first quarter of 2015, what are the coordinated interventions in these sectors that will produce the 2% growth rate for 2015? And lastly, given the similar experience of other countries globally, what are the lessons learned and how are these lessons being incorporated into the strategic plan for economic growth? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you again for the follow-up. To the first follow-up question, the 2% growth is premised on the current 75% power availability, and therefore the 5-point plan is expected to improve the capacity further, which will lift economic growth beyond the 2% baseline. But if you look at our budget review on page 20, we have put the scenarios. And with regards to your second follow-up, the first quarter GDP was in line, as I said earlier, with our expectations of a 2% GDP outcome for the year. The 5-point plan will ensure that the manufacturing and mining sector returns to production capacity in providing the necessary power. These two sectors are suffering from low investment, given uncertainty with power supply, and continue to be a drag on our economic performance. On your third follow-up question, indeed, we have learned lessons. Among lessons learned from power developments, they include the private sector participation, which I alluded to earlier, improving the energy mix, looking at gas, solar, shale, and all other sources of energy. And with other issues, the 9 priorities enlisted in the State of the Nation address highlight the strategic planning and focus areas of government. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. That concludes supplementary questions to question number 174. The next question has been asked by the Honorable Z.S. Faku to the Minister of Energy. Question number 165.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you to the member for the question. The energy efficiency strategy, which was approved by government in 2005, provided for a 12% reduction target in terms of energy usage relative to the 2000 baseline. Industry, mining, power generation, commercial and public buildings, residential and transport sectors were targeted for contributing towards this target. Various energy efficiency initiatives have been put in place in view of this strategy and pursuant to the target. Our target of a 12% reduction by 2015 relative to the 2000 baseline was measured against this monitoring system, and the indication is that indeed our reduced energy consumption can be attributed to the efficiency initiatives taken by government, rather than by external factors like declining economic activity. The energy efficiency and demand side management of municipalities. This is a program involving the transfer of fiscal subsidies and targets energy efficiency improvements in various municipalities through efficient technology deployment in lighting, heating, ventilation and cooling systems. Street lighting and the use of smart technologies are also being used for managing energy. Where there is evidence that more savings have been achieved through the industrial, commercial, and solar water heater initiatives, these initiatives and savings have not been qualified and independently verified yet. Going forward, the energy efficiency target monitoring system will be utilized to provide a platform for quantifying the aggregate impact of all energy efficiency initiatives. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Faku.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for the comprehensive response to my question. My follow-up question, Honorable Minister, how can we improve energy efficiency in the residential sector? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
The reduction of energy in the residential envelope was identified as a critical component of energy efficiency strategy, giving the potential benefits to the electricity grid and the reduction in building energy costs, the building energy costs that we have and our energy needs. However, we do not envisage punishing residential sectors or the industrial sector, one at the expense of the other. So the balance of where we implement load shedding has to take into account the impact of load shedding on residential areas as well as industrial sectors. And I think that when it comes to energy efficiencies, we've been able to save more megawatts from the industrial sector, from the residential sectors. We need to then really appeal to all South Africans to use energy efficiently and to contribute to the energy savings which we now require in our country.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first one to ask the supplementary question. Second one is Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, you have spoken about a 12% target, and I could not make head or tail of whether we had actually achieved that target in the prescribed time. Now, that being the case, Honorable Minister, what reassurance can you give to this House that this strategy will be turned into action and not just revised every single time targets are not met? So in brief, we want to find out, have the targets been met? And if not, what then is going to be done to ensure that we arrive at a point where those targets are met? And furthermore, we then want to find out, more importantly, the assurances we give to this House that there will be the political action that is required will be meted out to ensure that we actually meet these targets. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
The biggest challenge facing the energy efficiency effort has been the ability to measure and to quantify the savings and the targets that we have achieved. Whilst this has now been addressed through the target monitoring system, and where the target monitoring system hasn't addressed these challenges, we still have challenges in measuring our targets. So a revised implementation, and this revised implementation model which we have developed in order to align our programs with our objectives and to accelerate the pace of implementation, is what we will actually roll out and speed up in the following few months. Cabinet approved a new model, and this new model will be expected to be implemented in this coming financial year. One of the cheapest options available to our country is to change the behavior patterns of our population. But changing behavior patterns cannot necessarily be measured. So as we improve the implementation of our capacity and capability to measure, I think we'll also be able to implement cost savings, the taxing and the rebates and taxes in a much more efficient way. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Maxon.
Modula Stiloa, Wanako. Ke tlo go botsa motlotlegi ministera gore o tsaya karolo e feng mo go Eskom ka gonne Eskom ga e ka fa tlase ga tsamaiso ya gagwe ke energy e feng a buang ka yona ka gore tota setlamo se sa motlakase sa Eskom ga se ka fa tlase ga gagwe ebile se ya mo go ikarabeleng ga motlatsa mopresidente jaaka ntse re mo utlwa a bua fa. Ke a leboga.
Ra leboga. The Honorable the Minister.
Yes, indeed, the entity of Eskom is with the Minister of Public Enterprises. But as you know, and I'm sure the Honourable Member knows, that the Department of Energy supplies the Energy Master Plan, supplies the Integrated Resource Plan, looks at the energy mix for our country. Indeed, the National Energy Regulator of South Africa reports to the Minister of Energy. So I don't want to give the Honourable Member a lecture. I'm sure the Honourable Member is familiar with the prescripts of the Constitution and the laws of our country. But there is a very good relationship between the Department of Energy and the Department of Public Enterprises in how we manage the energy security situation in our country, as well as how we manage energy sufficiency and efficiency mechanisms in our country, be it in the public or private sector. I thank you.
Thank you. The last to ask the supplementary question on question 165 is Honorable McKay.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, congratulations on reportedly sending the much-needed solar water heater program rebate regulations to Cabinet. It is a pity that it took 6 months to achieve this outcome, despite being well aware that this program would be returned to your department at the end of 2014. Your dithering has cost the country an estimated 6,000 to 8,000 jobs and resulted in the closure of numerous small and medium-sized businesses. Minister, how will you and your department regain the confidence of investors and business and ensure that this much-needed program, with its potential of significantly promoting energy efficiency in South Africa, be rolled out? I thank you.
Honourable Minister.
The Honourable Member McKay has asked me this question several times, and I've answered him this question several times. As far as it comes to business confidence in the sector, the Honourable McKay just needs to know that the IPP programs, the different programs we have on solar energy, wind energy, cogeneration, the new request for information we published on the gas sector has generated so much confidence in business in the energy sector, something which I'm sure you are well aware of, and it is that very same business sector that is also involved in solar water heaters. So yes, we are working with businesses on addressing this model. SMMEs are very concerned about how the solar water heater model functions in terms of the maintenance of the solar water heaters. Your very same DA municipalities have complained that the model has to include mechanisms for maintenance, the installation, how SMMEs can be involved in the installation. And as far as I'm concerned, many people were convinced that the model had to be changed. We have changed the model, and it will not now leave us with solar water heaters, as you have in the municipality of Cape Town, your own mayor complaining about it. We can no longer have solar water heaters that are dysfunctional, which are not working, and which do not serve the purpose they are intended to serve.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Order, Honourable Members. Time allocated for questions has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed in Hansard. I will now ask the Secretary to read the first order.
Resumption of consideration of votes and schedule appropriation bill.
Thank you. Order, honorable members. Last night, we concluded up to the consideration of vote 20, Independent Police Investigative Directorate. We will therefore proceed with the consideration of vote 21, Justice and Constitutional Development. I now put the vote 21, Justice and Constitutional Development. Are there any objections? If there are objections, I now put the questions. The question, those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it.
Chair, as agreed in the Chief Whip's forum today, are you going to just then go through, use the lists, or do we have to get up and ask for a declaration every time now?
I can guide. Okay, thank you very much. I'm being advised that I will just ask for declarations and then continue. Honorable DA, the declaration has been called for. Thank you very much, DA. The second one.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. The DA does not support the budget vote for the Department of Justice. Last year we did support it. We said the Minister was new, that he had made some encouraging changes and that he deserved the benefit of the doubt. Today, 1 year later, he no longer deserves the benefit and there can be no doubt. He constantly tells us that he's responsible for the administration of justice in this country. In this he's failing miserably. There is no discernible justice for the Minister to administer. The budget allocation of the department pales into insignificance if one considers what precisely he's presiding over. He has presided over the further slide of the NPA into ignominy. He has allowed the criminal justice system to continue a lethargic slide. But much worse, he has allowed the President to abuse the system for which he is responsible, to the extent that most South Africans no longer believe in the concept of justice. He has aided and abetted the President in wreaking havoc in the criminal justice system as a whole, and allowed him to abuse taxpayers' money in order to rid himself of inconvenient stumbling blocks, while keeping in place persons in high positions who all South Africans know are not fit to hold them. Mr. Minister, we all know what happens to people who stay in the middle of the road. They get run over. Therefore, until the Minister uses his official capacity to ensure stability in the criminal justice system and to uphold the rule of law, we are regrettably unable to support his budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other party wishing? EFF?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson of the House. Last time we indicated that we have not seen any aggressive plan in the budget to make sure that the decommodification of the access to justice, particularly for the poor, is ensured, but also an aggressive improvement in the production of lawyers who represent our people as much as possible, particularly the poor, at no cost. We are not convinced that there is that process to make sure that the law, access to law, lawyers, and everybody else, that the costs are coming down generally, so that the nobility of access to justice is not captured by capital. The EFF opposes this budget as well because the ANC government is the last government in the world today to speak about the promotion of access to justice and the rule of law. The greatest threat to the rule of law and general public order comes from elites who steal public funds, and there are no arrests, tried, or imprisoned like the president of the ANC. The greatest threat to the rule of law comes from ANC officials who publicly harass, undermine, and mock those who run independent institutions like the public protector Tulima Donzela, who fight corruption of politicians like President Zuma. The greatest threat to the rule of law comes from lies, in fact, that the poor still do not have access to quality legal representation. We reject those who run this government and believe that giving more money is endorsing and promoting the undermining of the rule of law and constitutional development. You can't be trusted with ensuring the rule of law because you are the number one and the last people who break the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Co.
Thank you, Chairperson. Since 2009, there has hardly been any constitutional development. Now, given the fact that when we evolved our own constitution, we took examples from other countries. I wish to refer to those. Constitutional developments in Venezuela, in Ecuador, are imbued with philosophical and ethical calls to goodness, to harmony, to social integration, virtue, and other moralistic goals. Ecuador, for example, constitution created the National Equality Councils for the control of public ethics and individual moral behavior. South Africa must follow suit. Clauses on public morality, ethical behavior, political funding, disclosure, electoral refinement, etc., merit inclusion in our constitution. In Venezuela, for example, we have a fourth branch of government that can punish conduct that violates public ethics and administrative morals. We must follow suit. There are 1.8 million serious crimes committed in South Africa, but only 333,060 cases are finalized. Finally, the president has seriously compromised the criminal justice system. COPE, therefore, cannot support this vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before you come in, Honorable Swal, thank you. Before you come in, honorable members, order. I just want to inform members that from this side that you may speak from where you are seated. The issue about the noise, I think the Chief Whips Forum has been able to resolve the issue of the noise if you are at the back there. So, but if you want to come to the podium, no problem. Just make sure that you are here on time. Let's not wait for you. Thank you. Continue, Honorable Swart.
Chairperson, the budgets of the Human Rights Commission and the Public Protector form part of this budget vote. Now, the Human Rights Commission again expressed concerns that many of its reports and recommendations are not being implemented by state departments. And a glaring example is its 2010 report following the widespread xenophobic violence in 2008. And it's interesting, the report sets out a number of recommendations to various government departments such as Justice, Police, Home Affairs, and included an early warning system, an annual indaba, undertaking pragmatic reforms of immigration policy, regulating industries which employ non-nationals, and education and awareness programs. Now, regrettably, the Commission noted in its press release in April this year that, quote, most of these recommendations have not been implemented nor acted upon by various government departments. There can be no doubt that had these recommendations been implemented, the present wave of xenophobia that we experienced earlier this year would have been prevented or much reduced. Now, the Public Protector. It plays a major role in strengthening constitutional democracy through preventing and combating administration in all its forms from indifference and corruption. And I don't have to repeat what we said in the budget vote about the manner in which the Public Protector was treated by the Justice Committee. This resulted in a letter of complaint to both the Chairman and the Speaker, wherein Advocate Modensela stated that in her 5 years in office, she had not been treated in such a manner ever. She complained that the meeting was inexplicably unpleasant, even hostile, and we from the ACDP agree. As I said, rudeness can never be passed off for robust engagement. And there can be no doubt that the knives are still out for the Public Protector, and this is a direct result of a damning and Kandler report and other embarrassing reports, including the SABC report. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Swart. Any other member wishing to move? Honorable APC Godi.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Of the many issues in the department, we would want to single out the issue of the third-party funds, which in the history of this department has been a challenge. Despite concerted efforts over a period of time, especially under the current Director General, they have not been able to get it right. But we do, however, recognize the efforts and the progress that is being made. We just want to emphasize to the minister that the commitments that have been made, especially to get a financial system that will assist in ensuring that financial information is produced that can be relied upon, so that we can have proper accounting for the funds that goes into the courts, which assist those who are looking for maintenance money and bail and other such monies that are deposited in the courts. We believe that it is one element that still lags behind after so many other issues have been resolved. So as the APC, yes, we support the budget vote, but we think that the third-party fund does need to be given serious attention. I thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? ANC?
Honorable House Chairperson, it is important that we remind one another as honorable members that South Africa is a constitutional state based on the doctrine of separation of powers, and that in such a state there are institutions supporting democracy, but those institutions don't have the equal status with the three arms of government, which is Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. And it is also important to know that no Chapter 9 institution has the authority to investigate into the work of the judiciary and to come to determinations such as cut and paste judgment referring to the judgment of any of our high courts or Supreme Court. And it is also important that we understand that our jurisprudence is still evolving. An example of that is the fact that there's not even unanimity on the meaning of the powers of the, for instance, the public protector. It is for that reason that the matter had to go before the Western Cape High Court, which which said that remedial action of the public protector is not binding and enforceable. And some members on this side continue to instigate the public protector to demand that her powers are binding and enforceable.
Thank
and
you.
That is wrong.
Thank you.
There are no
Thank you,
knives.
Honorable Macho.
There are no knives that are
Thank
out
you.
for the public protector in this house
Thank
or
you.
in this country. Thank you very much.
I now put the vote again. Are there any objections? The objections will be noted. We now, so the
Chair,
vote is therefore,
Will you note the objection of the DA, please?
the objection of the DA has been noted. Honorable, because there are objections, I'm advised that I should put the question fully. I now put vote 21, Justice and Constitutional Development, vote again. Are there any objections to the vote being agreed to? Yes. The DA has already stated that they are objecting and their objection is noted. Any other party that is objecting?
No, Chair, we are calling for a division.
A division?
I don't know because the process,
No.
I understand it differently. It looks like in your head we might be there, so we are calling for a division as the EFF.
No problem.
Is that where we are?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Yes. The division has been called for. The bells will be rung for 5 minutes. Vicky? That very one, that was I was talking about. Thank you. Order, honorable members. The voting session is there now. Honorable members, I just want to remind you that members may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, the no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. Order, honorable members. The question before the House is that vote 21, justice and constitutional development, be agreed to. Are all members in their allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Thank you. The voting session is now closed. Yeah, pass. Thank you, honorable members. The yes, 214, no, 84, no abstainings. The vote is accordingly agreed to. We now move to vote number, I now put vote number 22, Office of Chief Justice and Judicial Administration. Are there any objections? In terms of the objections, I will now put the question.
Honorable Chairperson, we don't object as the EFF, but we request to make a declaration.
Okay, we still come into that, to declarations. Oh, it was you who said no. Okay, then it's okay. So declaration, there are no objections, there is a declaration. No, let's allow the DA first. No, they don't. EFF, allowed.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. This is the only budget of the 40 requested monies that the EFF supports. From the presidency to sports. It is the only one because it is not the request of ANC deployees. It is not going to fund ANC politicians. And that is why we are supporting it. However, we are very extremely concerned of the limited allocation to this budget because it would be extremely difficult for this office to fulfill its mandate. We think that this is a deliberate attempt by the current government to frustrate this office because it is not being led by one of their puppets. We commend the Chief Justice for rising above criticism since he was appointed in this office because he was accused of being the puppet of the current administration. We have seen in current times how independent entities like the Public Protector, which is not the puppet of the president, are prosecuted and antagonized. Underfunding is a new weapon, we believe, of the current administration to sabotage institutions that are independent, like Chapter 9 institutions, who are not seen to be protecting corruption. The Chief Justice is a typical example of how one can be appointed by one of the most corrupt administrations in recent times and still be independent. The proclamation of the OCJ as a department is most welcome because our view is that this will help to strengthen the judiciary, which will not be compromised by the current administration. As the EFF, we are confident that the leadership of the current Chief Justice will further entrench and protect the independence of the judiciary. This is the only thing that can guarantee the rule of law in this country. And Nkandla is going to come in front of the judges, and President will have his day in prison. Thank you very much.
Thank you. IFP?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Once again, a pleasant surprise.
Order, honorable members.
Once again, a pleasant surprise to be following the EFF, who are supporting 1 out of 40 votes. Well done. We as the IFP would support the vote. We support the creation of this particular department. However, when we spoke during the EPC, we spoke about the independence, and we feel that's something, Honorable Minister, that still needs to be looked at from the position of financial independence as well. We do understand from certain sources in your department that there are concerns of profligate spending by those that some officials within who work within this Vote 22 environment. But I think that's something that the Parliamentary Oversight Committee needs to deal with. If there's profligate spending, they must deal with those issues. But it's not a reason for not granting them full independence in terms of its operations. One area of concern we have, Honourable Chairperson, is the question of the appointment of acting judges. Now, there are far too few black female acting judges that are appointed. And when you don't get acting judges, then you don't get this upward mobility. And I think this is an area where they need to look into very, very seriously, because we need to have more female black judges at all levels of the judiciary, from the High Court right up to the Constitutional Court. And we trust that this is an area that would be looked into, and we trust also that there would be laid down criteria that would inform how advocates and attorneys are appointed as acting judges moving forward. We will support this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. ACDP?
Thank you, Chairperson. The Office of the Chief Justice is now fully operational as a new department with its own budget vote as from 1 April this year. Now, this budget vote addresses the institutional independence of the judiciary, with administrative support functions progressively being transferred to the OCJ. And it has not been an easy task, with Chief Justice Mogoeng complaining, quote, that there's been unbelievable resistance from the executive, and that the eventual transfer of functions to the OCJ was the result of pressure from the judiciary and the much appreciated intervention from the President. The model is still, however, a stopgap model. We in the ACDP are concerned that the Secretary General of the OCJ is seen as a proxy for the Minister, and this does not appear to be what was intended in the Memorandum of Understanding, and we welcome the Minister's planned colloquium in this regard. Lastly, the ACDP shares concerns about the financial shortfall of about 75.7 million, which will undermine the OCJ's ability to recruit and retain the requisite expertise for it to be able to perform its mandate. Of an approved establishment of 1,766, only a total of 324 positions are still unfilled and unfunded. We think that we in the Justice Committee, who all agreed on the underfunding, erred in not approaching the Appropriations Committee for additional funding in terms of the provisions of the Monetary Bills and Related Matters Act. Let us remember that we have got the powers within the fiscal framework, Honourable Minister of Finance, to approach the Appropriations Committee. And we may well have been able to secure additional funding within the fiscal framework had we done so. The ACDP will, notwithstanding that, support this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you. ANC?
The unanimous support for Vote 22 is confirmation of the fact that the ANC believes in the independence of the judiciary and has done the necessary to ensure that. And that is why we are saying the Office of the Chief Justice is operational. And the issue, there's no issue about the Chief Justice complaining about the executive. the only question which had to be resolved was the question as to how that office would account to Parliament, because the Chief Justice and the Secretary General in his office are not members of Parliament. So that was a question that we had to meet ourselves with the Chief Justice and the Judge Presidents to discuss. There was no complaint against the executive. Secondly, we have also met with the Justices of Botswana in the office of the Chief Justice to see as to what can we learn from Botswana to strengthen the independence of our own judiciary. And financial independence of that office is being addressed, but our minister cannot act arbitrarily because this is a constitutional state governed by the rule of law. We don't act arbitrarily, and we don't expect our minister, deputy ministers to act arbitrarily. So, Siyakuba, we are on course. That office is going to be established because it has to be fully independent. Now, these noises about people being puppets are actually the screams of dying snakes, and we shouldn't worry about them because they are not taking us anywhere. Thank you very much. Your
time is up.
Order. Honorable Chairperson, we must call an order.
Honorable Ndlozi.
Honorable Chairperson, we made the argument about puppets thus far, and we are told that we are dying snakes. Can the Honorable Matola Motsecha withdraw those comments? You can't say honorable members are snakes, because if you allow that, Honorable Chairperson,
Honorable Ndlozi.
this house will degenerate.
Honorable Ndlozi.
Because we have other creative names that we can bring to the house here.
You know, the problem is, okay, sit down, Honorable Ndlozi, let me respond.
But Chair, please be patient.
Okay.
Because I was,
No, the thing is, you are now debating. I heard your point of order, but you continue, then you confuse me. It's no longer a point of order. Honorable Ndlozi, I am not sure of what the honorable member referred to, but I will look into that matter and we will rule before the end of the session.
Chairperson.
We will rule before the end of the session.
Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Milda, I'll come to you. Let me start with Honorable Shibambo.
The basic procedure of how you preside there is that if we identify an issue about a member, you must check with them. And then if they confirm, you then give a ruling on whether they must withdraw or not.
Yeah.
Because we can't agree, we can't allow to be called snakes by Matoli.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Please.
What I am saying, Honorable Member, is not that I don't want to rule. As you are saying, I'm not very sure of the content. So I will ask the table to assist me. No, I hate him, but I may not understand. So I'm going to ask the table to assist me. That's why I said I will rule before the end of the session. Thank you. Honorable Milda.
My concern is that with all due respect, the table cannot assist you to interpret what that member meant. What the member said is quite clear. We all heard what he said. He said the noise on this side is the noise of dying snakes. Now on this side, we find members of parliament. I would suggest, with all due respect to you, that you should ask the honourable member whether he meant that what he said, directed that to any member of parliament. That's the question. The table cannot assist you in this matter at all.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm advised that I'll make a ruling before the end of the session. Thank you.
Chair, when we're waiting for the ruling, we want to state categorically that Matole is a dead snake himself. We'll withdraw once you have given a ruling.
May I say, honorable member? Oh no, honorable members, thank you. Honorable members.
Honorable House Chair.
No, honorable.
Honorable House Chairperson.
Honorable Deputy Chief Whip.
On a point of order, Honorable Chair, two wrongs does not make it right. I think the House Chairperson said she's going to make a ruling on this one. So we cannot degenerate in that way that we call each other by first names and also called each other as snakes. We have honorable members in this House. Thank you.
Your point.
Honorable Chair, we want to appeal to the highest logic here. There are three things. If you want to earn the confidence and the trust, we don't forget that all the presiding officers are ANC members. When they do not become tough on ANC members when they are out of line, it makes the House degenerate. That's number one. And if they don't protect us, we are forced to protect ourselves. Honorable Motshekga, from being a premier in Gauteng, you have fallen and you are a dead snake. We will come back and correct that if you correct him.
Honorable Ndlozi, please sit. Can we continue? I think points have been made, and I made a ruling.
A point of order, Chair.
Honorable Zulu.
No.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, before Honorable Zulu speaks, I have heard from both sides. And when I make a ruling, I will consider all the sides. Even the remarks that were made by Honorable Shibambu. Thank you very much. I now put vote number 23. Oh, no, sorry. I'm not done. You see now, niyenzumbera kwami ungakhambi kuhle, niyangihlangahlanganisa, tokhwana ngiyachubeka. Honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. I now put the vote again. Please, I am speaking. I now put the vote again. Are there any objections to vote 22? Order, honorable members. Office of the Chief Justice and Judicial Administration. No objections, agreed to. The vote is therefore agreed to. Honorable members, whether you do the change sign, I'm qualified to be here. I now put vote 23, police. Are there any objections? In light of the objections, I now put the question. Those in favor of vote 23, police being agreed to, say aye. Those against, say no. I think the ayes have it. And the objections will be noted. There has been a request for declaration. I now call on the DA.
Thank you, Chair. There is no indication that the proposed budget will do much more than pay seemingly endless legal bills. The Minister has over and over again contemptuously ignored court rulings, which he then appeals, loses again, and ignores again. This is where the hard-earned taxpayer money is going. He unlawfully suspended the head of the Hawks, unlawfully appointed the acting Hawks boss burning in Tlameza, unlawfully suspended Hawks boss from Gauteng, and taxpayers paid the bills. This acting head of the Hawks was determined to be biased, dishonest, and lacking in integrity and honor. Today, he, as a relative junior, presides over Hawks appointments for positions higher than his own. He brags he's carrying out a political mandate and appoints his preferred candidates, even though some of them have failed dismally in the positions they currently hold. The minister paid 13 million to get rid of the head of the Hawks because he called for the Nkandla files, and how much more was paid for the 73-page whitewash via a private law firm worksman. He claimed he didn't know. His brow-mopping performance at the gala presentation of his personal production, Nkandla the movie, has won us not an Oscar, which is surely deserved, but international derision. How much did the firepool clip and orchestral mood music cost us? Taxpayer money was used when DA members were shot with water cannons, beaten to the ground and assaulted at the opening of Parliament. Police have been deployed into this very chamber twice, with the SABC cameras coyly raising their lenses to the Speaker rather than allow the country to watch them trample on the Constitution. Millions are spent on salaries for hundreds on suspension. Our farmers and farm workers are being slaughtered daily in the most horrific manner, and the SAPS has a failed rural safety policy that no one in the SAPS takes seriously. The 1,448 convicted murderers and rapists will be promoted on this money. Meanwhile, our officers live in slums, and 2 Durban dog units are going to be visited by the SPCA. I reported them today. Do you imagine the Democratic Alliance will support this vote?
EFF.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me give you a clear picture of what is the police we have today in South Africa. Police barracks are being converted into office spaces by SAPS, leaving the poor constables, the students, the sergeants in the streets. The detectives at police stations are not remunerated accordingly. An allowance that must be paid to them after completing the detective learning program was not authorized by the department. No innovation is in place to link Home Affairs, Justice, Correctional Services, and SAPS in order for the police to capture the first-time offenders with a press of a button. Some police stations are still utilizing so-called CR system, the case register system, after 21 years of dishing out money to SAPS annually. We refuse to grant you our support to bully the police into beating up members of parliament and kill protesters like they did in Marikana under your hand. How can we support a budget with clear abuse of power demonstrated in the instability of the Hawks, in which the minister spent millions in his attempt to protect an individual in Kandla? How can we approve this budget when illegal arrest and brutality cost department at least 18.5 billion from civil litigation? What a shame. How can we approve a budget when it is clear that the police have been politicized to serve the interests of influential politicians? Until you take the police seriously, you give them barracks, you give them allowances that are due to them, EFF will never support this budget.
Honorable Groenewald.
Agbare voorsitter, hoe word jy 'n kitsmiljonair in Suid-Afrika? Jy word 'n kader van die ANC, jy sluit by hulle aan, jy sorg dat jy 'n senior pos kry, en dan begin jy een of ander ondersoek na die president van die land. En dan kry jy 'n goue handdruk. Want dit is presies wat gebeur het nou in die polisie. Daar is 'n probleem met die hoof van die volke, generaal Anwar Dramat, en wat gebeur? Daar word net eenvoudig vir hom 'n goue handdruk gegee. So sien ons dat in Suid-Afrika alle ander departemente, baie van hulle senior bestuurders wat in onguns verval het by die regerende ANC 'n goue handdruk kry. Die Vryheidsfront Plus sê vir die agbare minister van polisie, en ek sien hom nie hierson nie, ek sien ook nie die agbare adjunkminister van polisie hierson nie. So dit is ook bietjie totaal onaanvaarbaar dat nie of die minister of die adjunkminister teenwoordig is as hulle begrotingspos moet goedgekeur word in die parlement nie. Dit wys eintlik die disrespek wat die twee agbare ministers het teenoor hierdie instelling, die wetgewende liggaam. Maar ek wil vir die agbare minister sê, agbare minister, u het nou kostes aangegaan met die belastingbetalers se geld om 'n ondersoek te doen in terme van Oopot, dit is nou McBride se afdeling, en dan in terme van of 'n verslag verander is of nie. Die bevinding is, dit is verander. dan moet dan nou opgetree word. Maar nou sê ek vir u, as Anwar Dramat skuldig is, kla hom aan. Laat hy hof toe gaan. Want ek wil vandag vir u sê, as u 'n goue handdruk uitgee vir 'n persoon om hom stil te maak, dan maak u uself skuldig en is u medepligtig aan 'n misdryf, want dan beskerm u 'n misdadiger. Gee hom sy dag in die hof en hou op om goue handdrukke uit te deel. Ek dank u.
Thank you. Hope.
Thank you, Chair. It is a fact. We still await the release of the Marikana report and consider the Minister of Police's absolution of the President in the Nkandla saga as beyond comprehension. Let us be quite blunt. The Minister is out of his depth. He is excellent at whitewashing, but hopeless in providing leadership to the police. What we have is a quasi-military police force, but not a police service. The use of the police in controlling protests is once again making the police the enemy of the people. Politicians, not the police, must face the protesters. Professionalism is what we need to see. In the townships, lawlessness prevails. Gangsters and mobsters hold sway there. People are screaming for help. The minister, however, is deaf to those screams. Township residents are providing second by second information to Facebook on where gangsters are meeting and who is doing what. Even so, nothing happens. Without brilliant leadership, we will have nearly 2 million serious crimes occurring in our country, as of course has happened. We cannot really, therefore, support this vote. Comrade Jeff, Honorable, you of course will understand what I am talking about. You are far from there. Thank you very much in the struggle.
ACDP.
Chairperson, the ACDP would like to see police that are well paid and well trained. It is our wish to support the police budget every year because of the important work that the police are doing. In return, we expect excellent service, streets that are safer, and a police service that is incorruptible. When talking to ordinary people in the streets, none agree that crime in South Africa is declining. Drug trafficking has definitely increased. Children, some as young as 10, are addicted to drugs and causing havoc in their homes as they steal anything they can lay their hands on. Families are broken apart and crying for help because of their loved ones who are hooked on drugs. Whenever we hear about a drug bust by the police, it is mostly of young, inexperienced dealers who are on the payroll of the big shots, and these big shots always get away. Even though the ACDP would like to support this budget vote, especially as we want to see our police better paid, the ACDP cannot support this vote until we see an improvement and a decline in crime. Thank you.
IFP.
Chairperson.
Honorable Ngango, please sit away. Honorable.
Really, Chairperson, are we allowed to read newspapers in the House? In particular, when the African speakers are speaking and then when the House are is being put down. Can you look at that, please?
Honorable members.
Honorable Speaker, I rise on a point of order. I would really ask you to ask that honorable member to look around this whole assembly and you will only see Africans. We are all Africans. I'm sick and tired of people referring to certain people as Africans and others are not. We are all Africans. I would suggest that you assist the member. Members are allowed to read newspapers when it assists them if they are preparing for their speeches. That's in the rules.
Honorable members, thank you very much. Honorable members.
Sorry, House Chair. Sorry, I'd like to take the matter a little bit further, if I may. We have had rulings in the House before that we do not allow racial stereotyping in the House. What the Honourable Member has done, and he should know better because he's a whip, is a clear, blatant racial stereotyping. And I'd like to ask him to remove it. Because if you allow that to happen in the House today, I'm telling you now, Madam House Chair, there's not going to be any peace in this House today.
Honorable members, order. Honorable members, it is true that members might like to get something from their newspapers so that they enhance their debate. But, honorable members, let us do it in a discreet way. And let's not just show everybody that we just not interested. Honorable members, it has, okay, honorable, I'm still ruling. Honorable members, it has been ruled before that you shouldn't, okay? Honorable Steenhuisen, it was ruled before that members should not read papers in the House. And now I am saying, for the reasons that you are bringing forth, I do understand, but let us be, gentle about that. Now, secondly, honorable members, listen, I'm done with the newspaper part. Please, let's do what is correct. Secondly, the members of this House are Africans. And we all agree that we are Africans, Honorable Milda. Everybody in the House is African. And I don't see any difference in my honorable members, please.
Point of order, House Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. Now, honorable members, please allow me. Honorable Khadebe, would you please stand? When you referred to an African member, were you referring to race?
Chairperson, all the people who came here were Africans. Thank you.
No, Honorable Chairperson, on a... Honorable Chair.
Conclude on the issue of the Africans. Can I conclude before you come in?
Honorable Chair.
I'm not done. Can I conclude? Honorable members, as I expected, every member, as I said when I started, in this House is an African. And that's why I wanted the clarity from the honorable member. And the honorable members, the clarity has been sought, and it is clear that he was not referring to a particular race. And as such, we continue. Thank you.
Point of order, House Chairperson.
Can I allow Honorable Oosthuizen? I'll recognize
I had stood before Honorable Oosthuizen.
Honorable Steenhuisen, sorry for that.
Madam House Chair, I must vehemently disagree with what you've just said. There have been, if you look at the annotated digest of rulings, over several rulings, there's been a strong line taken against racial stereotyping. What the honourable member said, and perhaps you need to look at Hansard to get the full text, because he spoke about Africans and white.
Is it?
It's
Okay.
racial stereotyping. I also want to place on record, Madam House Chair, that I'm getting the sense that the opposition parties are being victimized. Yesterday, when I raised a point of order, when that minister was on her cell phone while the House was in session, it was glossed over. A member opens a newspaper to get an article that he wants to refer to later in his budget speech, and now suddenly he's picked on as a transgression. We need to be consistent in when we make rulings in the House. You can't allow that the minister to get away with being on his cell phone, and then you take selective action against a member for looking at a newspaper.
Unfortunately, you got me wrong. I never took a selective action. On the issue of saying he said black, Africans and talked about white. I did not hear the white part, and as such, I will consult the Hansard and rule accordingly. Thank you. Honorable...
Chairperson.
No, Honorable...
Chairperson.
There is a member here who has been waiting. Thank you. Honorable Kubai.
Thanks, House Chairperson. I think there's been, since we started, there are threats that are being thrown, and I think it's unfair. It's out of order. Honorable members who are two members stood up and made threats. I thought that when I allowed you, because I stood earlier on and allowed you to finish your ruling, I thought you'll cover that part, because I don't think in the spirit of continue with the debates, somebody can stand up and say this house will be ungovernable, and you do not include it in your ruling, because at least members must be decent, because if you are going to rule on something, that process must be allowed. Because if all of us are going to stand and say something will happen here, what will happen to this house? I think all of us deserve to be here. Equally, all of us must be respected. And if a ruling is going to be made, it must be given. I think members must really afford everybody an opportunity, and therefore not pass threats.
Thank you.
Because no one is amputated.
Thank you, Honorable Member. On top of the rulings that I've already made, your point has been noted.
Chairperson, may I address you on a point of order?
Yes, Honorable
Thank you,
Waters.
Chairperson. Chairperson, when the Honourable Whip of the ANC said, is it parliamentary for members to read a newspaper while African speakers are speaking, he implied, right, that certain people in this house are not Africans. Else he wouldn't have used the word African.
Honourable...
No, I haven't finished, and you didn't interrupt the last speaker, so please allow me to finish, Chair. Can I continue? Thank you. But the fact that the Honourable Whip said the word African implies that he sees members on this side of the House as non-African. And for him to get up and mislead this House, and I would say deliberately mislead this House, and say that he sees everyone as Africans is disingenuous. And I believe you should make him withdraw those racist remarks.
Honorable Waters, I don't disagree with you. With the last part that you added before, I said we will listen to the Hansard. That's what I said. I never said, because the first time I was only concentrating on the African part. But thank you for that. We will listen to the Hansard and come back to it. Honorable members, Mr. Mwango is the one to continue with declarations.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Order, honorable members.
The IFP will support the budget. However, we would like to raise some issues around the budget itself, because we currently see a police force with extremely low morale, which has resulted in a number of resignations, early retirement, and sometimes a lot of senior people in the police force asking for medical boarding. And we ask ourselves why, and the answer is plain to see. There are no leaders. Across the divisions, whether they be crime, intelligence, or the Hawks, or even IPID, we see leadership being suspended, and suspended on full pay. Honorable Chairperson, the SEPS ship appears to be rudderless, floating aimlessly amidst a sea of increasing criminality. The minister must roll up his sleeves, we believe, get to work and restore order in this, to this department. Our police services are also skewed in terms of manpower and resources when comparing our rural areas to our towns or cities. Police stations are located in peri-urban and urban areas, and very few are to be found in rural areas where the majority of our people actually reside. The result is that crime goes largely unreported in the rural areas, with citizens having little or no protection at all against criminal elements in their communities. So this must be urgently addressed. I thank you.
Thank you. NFP.
Thank you, the Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Ministers, Deputy Ministers, Honourable colleagues. The budget allocation for police is the second highest allocation made within the overall budget after social development. This indicates just how high policing is prioritized. It also a reflection of the rampant crime which is maintaining a silly grip on South Africa year after year. The National Freedom Party welcomes the integrated justice system which will identify criminals with previous records upon arrest. The people of South Africa have a right to be protected and live in a safe environment without any fear as enshrined in the Constitution. Whilst crime is rampant, we must acknowledge the success by our dedicated and committed civil citizens who risk their lives daily to protect us. We call on the department to protect our many officers and ensure that those found guilty of killing or maiming our officers face the full might of the law. We further call on government to ensure our police officers are well remunerated and enjoy all benefits accordingly. Honourable Chairperson, many officers complain about not being promoted or being marginalized. We call on the department to attend to this and address these challenges that some of our diligent officers face. The National Freedom Party takes note of the fact that the department does face challenges. However, the NFP is concerned with the high amount spent on civil claims against the state. The increase in spending on compensation of employees is noted. However, the National Freedom Party calls on the department to accelerate the process of recruiting members from tertiary institutions and ensuring that policing forms part of the school curriculum to attract members with a passion for policing rather than those willing to take on any form of employment. The NFP calls on government to direct bursaries and NSFS funding accordingly. The National Freedom Party supports this budget. Vote 23. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other declarations? ANC.
Chairperson, the ANC supports vote 23, the police, to ensure that through effective policing, the SAPs prevent, combat and investigate crime, maintain public order, protect and secure the inhabitants of South Africa and their property, and uphold and enforce the law. The NDP's vision for building safer communities, read with outcome 3 of government's medium-term strategic framework, all people in South Africa are and feel safe, provides for the strengthening of the criminal justice system and the professionalization of the police service. These are key priorities. Critical to this ideal is the effective utilization of resources in the programs of visible policing and detective services. The execution of a proactive and responsive police service model is key to discourage and prevent priority crimes. The bulk of the allocation of 76 million will be spent in these 2 programs. Spending patterns will aim to reduce the number of serious crimes through the implementation of sector policing at all stations, crime prevention operations in the hotspots, and enhancing training for detectives and forensic specialists. We had 7 speakers from other parties that spoke here today. 4 of them raised issues that should have been raised under other budget votes. One item was raised that can be mentioned, the issue of the head of the hawks. That issue must be addressed in the next 6 months. But what is a pity that none of the parties raised the issue of the other programs. All the issues they raised is in program 1. There's no support for program 5. Program 5 also includes the members of SAPS that assist us here in the National Assembly. It's a pity that the members of the other parties were not open to support them. Part of the other priorities is increasing the number of reported crimes reported for the unlawful possession of and dealing in drugs, increasing the implementation of the pillars of rural safety strategy for police stations from 515 to 882, and also to ensure that there's an increase in the mobile contact points and rural safety priorities.
Thank you.
The ANC supports this budget vote.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I now put the vote again. Are there any objections? In light of the objections, I will now put the question. Those in favor of vote 23, police, being agreed to, please say aye. Those against, please say no. I think the ayes have it. And
Madam House Chair, these Africans in the Democratic Alliance call for a division.
a division having been called, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. Order, honorable members. I would like to remind members again that they may only vote from their allocated seats. Maybe from now onwards you must remain in your seats because the bells will only be rung for 1 minute. Just a reminder. So when requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes or no or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that vote 23, police, be agreed to. Are all members in their allocated seats? Yes. The voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Yes. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Thank you. The voting session is now closed. Honorable members, the yes, 201. No, 91. Abstentions, none. So the vote 23, police, is accordingly agreed to. I now put vote 24, agriculture, forestry, and fisheries. Are there any objections? In light of the objections, I will put the question. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Declarations of vote have been requested. I call upon the GA.
Chairperson, this department plays an incredibly important role to ensure food security to its 53 million South Africans. South Africa is currently considered a food secure nation. According to a report by Oxfam, the reality is that despite some progress since the birth of democracy in 1994, 1 in 4 people currently suffers hunger on a regular basis, and more than half of the population live in such precarious circumstances that they are at risk of going hungry. The numbers of people facing hunger can be estimated at 13 million in total in South Africa. The main focus of this Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries is to be able to report to Parliament that they have spent the budget. They are consistently reporting on how much of the budget has been spent without achieving any of its targets set, or achieving not a lot of the targets set. With this objective in mind, that they could not even reach the target of spending the budget. And for this reason, Treasury announced a budget cut of 309 million rand in this financial year. It is therefore of a big concern that this department is unable to properly report on spending patterns. The Department of Monitoring and Evaluation also found that information provided to them cannot be backed up by facts. We all know of chicken houses, piggeries and vegetable gardens standing unused everywhere. The reason for this is because this department focuses on spending the budget and not on outcomes. Therefore, the Democratic Alliance will not support this budget.
The EFF. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. South African agriculture has been declining steadily over the past few decades. From having 120,000 farmers in 1950, this country now has less than 37,000 farmers. Most of the farmers have been suffocated out of the system because they simply cannot compete with cheap agricultural products imported from other countries. The ANC government fails to understand a very simple fact that agriculture is a very sensitive and fragile sector. You must protect it and subsidize it if you are serious about ensuring the nation's food sovereignty. If you do not subsidize and protect your agriculture, your smallholders will be snuffed out of the system, leaving only the most capitalized farmers to compete. The result of this the minister's not here, I see, is that we now have 37,000 farmers producing 90% of our food needs, and the rural inhabitants produce only 10% of our food through smallholder and subsistence agriculture. It is precisely because of this that we import even the most outrageous of products. This government has now removed the restriction on importation of chicken from the United States, opening up the floodgates of US chicken to our shores and signaling disaster for our own chicken farmers. This department has become a latter-day tool for the continuation of apartheid practices in as far as state forests are concerned. Acquired through a process of dispossession, these forests were used by apartheid to further alienate black people from their land. The ANC government continues where apartheid left off by denying people access to the land, and even in instances where they lodge successful land claims, as in Dwesa in the Eastern Cape. They then use these forests as enrichment resources for corrupt and dishonest forestry monopolies, backed by senior ANC politicians, letting them pay just R1.50 per hectare. The ANC is an enemy of progress in agriculture and fisheries. We will not accept this budget until you decriminalize Parlemoen. IFP.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. Well, the IFP does support this budget vote because if agriculture doesn't work, our people are going to go hungry. Particularly the poorest of the poor on a daily basis are struggling with the realities of hunger and the threat of food insecurity. But having said that, Honourable House Chairperson, quite frankly, the department now needs to move beyond the rhetoric. We remember when the Deputy Minister of Agriculture was appointed, he went on a long journey to say we're going to sexify agriculture, we're going to draw people into agriculture, rhetoric after rhetoric after rhetoric. And quite frankly, it has not materialized, nothing has happened. And we know that the current minister and deputy minister inherited a department that was in total disarray, in absolute chaos, which had been brought down to its knees by the previous minister. So that's also a legacy issue. But it's not reason enough for them to be moving at such a slow pace at ensuring that we address the issues of agriculture. We want to say that the slow pace responses to crisis confronting agriculture, in particular in the farms, when it comes to droughts and the interventions which need to be instituted in that regard, does not bode well for the growth of the agricultural sector, economic growth, and it is a threat to job security, because if we continue to have a situation where farms become non-productive, that is going to lead to job losses. And of course, we know that as government continues to fail to create jobs, they definitely cannot afford job losses in the sector. Moreover, the fact that 95% of the agricultural output of South Africa is only produced by 3% of the farms, on its own, that is a problem. And so until such time that we arrive at yet again another logical conclusion and working environment where we address this issue, where all farming industries are working at full functionality, then we are running the risk of food insecurity, which is already a threat to this to our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The department must ensure sustainable living for our people, must ensure food security, and make farming a business. This means that if the department wants to achieve its goals, then there must be dedication. There's no time for laziness, no time for too much talking. Equally important, there should be no unauthorized expenditure and no wasteful expenditure. This budget must go directly to where it is intended to go. In as much as we support the budget, the NFP hopes to be used in a manner that creates jobs in the farming sector, in a manner that fights hunger, poverty, and above all, in a manner that develops rural communities to a level that everyone there enjoys life and see no need to move to the overcrowded cities of this country. We used to see agricultural officers visiting farmers in rural areas. That must happen. They must go there to mentor farmers and coach them in rural areas. We used to see researchers in deep rural areas. That must happen as well. As we have said, we support this budget.
Thank you very much, UDM.
Madam Chair, the UDM supports the budget, but the department needs to take care of the following. Policies and charters are there, but they are not being implemented. This needs to be corrected. Forestry land is shrinking, mainly due to mining, and that is a threat to the department. The country needs to know what tonnage will be produced this year as a percentage of what South Africa consumes annually. I'm talking in the context of food. The department needs to engage the Department of Water Affairs so that applications for new afforestation can be fast-tracked. Currently, they take too long and hamper development. The programs that we see are no more than just being sporadic and spasmodic, with no noticeable impact. Serious concerns surround appropriate staffing within the department. There are no results showing steady farmer progression to full commercial status. However, if the department were to take good care of these concerns I've just expressed, I believe that the food security situation will be much improved. I thank you.
FF Plus.
Agbare voorsitter, ons kan nie die landboubegrotingspos bespreek en 'n besluit oorneem as ons nie ook kyk in terme van grondhervorming in Suid-Afrika nie. Die agbare minister van grondhervorming is hier, so ek weet die agbare minister van landbou is siek, maar ek wil dit ook op rekord stel, dat dit is nou die tweede keer wat die adjunkminister van landbou nie teenwoordig is as die pos bespreek word nie. Hy's meer in die buiteland en lyk my meer bekommerd wat daar aangaan as wat in Suid-Afrika aangaan. Agbare voorsitter, die boere van Suid-Afrika vra nie bevoorregting nie. Die boere van Suid-Afrika vra nie gunstes en gawes nie. Die boere van Suid-Afrika vra sekerheid. Hulle wil sekerheid hê oor hulle grond. Hulle wil sekerheid hê dat as hulle ontwikkel en vooruitgang, dat dit waarmee hulle besig is en hulle bates beskerm sal word. En dan kan die regering nie kom en aankondig dat daar beperkings geplaas gaan word op plaasgroottes afhangende van watter bepaalde kategorieë is nie. Dit, agbare voorsitter, skep onsekerheid by die landbou. Dit op die einde van die dag laat die boere besluit om te sê, ek gaan nie uitbrei nie, ek gaan nie meer kos produseer nie, ten spyte daarvan dat die bevolking van Suid-Afrika groei, dan skep u ook voedsel onsekerheid in Suid-Afrika. Die Vryheidsfront Plus, dames, meneer voorsitter, wil ek vir u sê, beskou hierdie twee poste gesamentlik, ons sal nie hierdie pos ondersteun nie, en ons sal ook nie pos nommer 39 in terme van landelike ontwikkeling en grondhervorming ondersteun nie. Want as ons dit ondersteun, vat ons die land in 'n rigting wat nadelig is en voedselsekerheid bedreig. Ek dank u.
Cope.
Thank you, Chair. COPE will not support this vote because the department has not put climate change at the apex of its priorities. Further reasons, climate change is here. Our country is at a millennium crossroads. Scientific predictions are that weather patterns are going to change considerably. Rainfall will increase extensively in some places and cause flooding. It will diminish elsewhere and cause prolonged droughts. We are about to see the emergence of a new climate. A proactive department supported by good quality research will alert farmers in good time so that they can change a course and survive into the future and thus guarantee food security. Honorable Chair, there is a tendency to see climate change as less threatening than an earthquake. That is a very serious mistake, as it is happening here in our country. Sahara Desert, for example, was a fertile green belt for 4,000 years. Today, it is a giant desert. Pollution is threatening a sea alive. The acidification of the ocean because of excess carbon dioxide in the air is also threatening extinction of the species. And we believe as COPE that our government here today is not looking
Order,
at all
Honourable
this,
Member, your
and
time
we
is
therefore
up.
cannot support.
ACDP. APC.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Agriculture is the primary industry. We all had lunch today thanks to a farmer. And therefore it's important that this budget vote be supported by everyone in the House to ensure that the important work of guaranteeing food security in our country goes ahead. And equally important, the process of reversing the legacy of the 1913 Land Act to ensure that the majority of our people have access not only to land but to farming land. That is why, as the APC, we support government programs that seek to support emerging farmers, especially through the Comprehensive Agricultural Support Program, which is financed to a tune of about 2 billion rands annually. However, our concern is on the accountability and the effective use of these transfers by provinces. In the recent engagement with the Parliament by the department, it became clear that in as much as they pump money yearly, they are also not equally certain about how effectively this money is being used. So we therefore call upon the department to ensure that money given to provinces is used to actually fulfill this important responsibility. Lastly, Chair, we are concerned as the APC that this Parliament, a couple of years ago, passed a resolution on the marine living resources, only to find that this year, the same problems that we dealt with and on which we resolved have not changed. We call on the department to ensure that the inefficiency, the corruption, and the patronage that exists within that entity are addressed so as to ensure that the majority of our people, especially coastal communities, are able to benefit from the resources that accrue from
Order,
the
Honourable
oceans.
Member, your time is up.
I thank you very
PAC.
much.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. You know, Usoboko will wake up from the grave if I don't speak on this one. Let me rather remind this House, Honorable Chair, that the contradiction between the oppressed and the oppressor was the land issue. So up until such time this land is restored back to its rightful owners, it's only then that at least we'll be talking. EPAC supports obviously because it benefits, you know, the poor of the poorest, this vote. But however, I have got these issues that I must note that the PAC notes that we have limited access neither to fishing rights nor on land, lack of shares in mining industry for the unskilled labor, lack of empowerment for farm workers. Many Africans are still being used as slaves, obviously. They are kept fit physically while being paralyzed mentally and emotionally. Their salaries hardly meet the basic need of living, such as food, let alone education needs for their children. Their health and safety is not taken seriously, and they have no guarantee of decent retirement packages like other employees. These are some of the issues. For example, the case of dead dwellings, where people are without ownership of arable land, they are helpless and they cannot eradicate poverty and inequality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ANC.
Thank you, House Chair. Agriculture remains one of the sectors that offer the real possibility for massive job creation and the revival of rural economy. The ANC has identified this as one of the strategic productive sectors of the economy. In order to ensure the realization of this priority, the ANC has correctly identified increased investment in rural infrastructure that supports production and market opportunities as key. The NDP clearly outlines the role of the agriculture and agro-processing sectors ought to play in the revitalization of the rural economy. The contribution of agriculture to South Africa's economy is not only important for economic growth, but also for food security and job creation through bringing underutilized land in communal areas into commercial production, increasing land under irrigation, and supporting commercial production in areas that have potential for higher growth and unemployment. The ANC government has responded to these national priorities with plans outlined in the Agricultural Policy Action Plan, APAP. APAP proposes special economic plans aimed at guiding government investment, infrastructure, land acquisition, training, production, and other support through a value chain approach, targeting priority commodities identified in the National Development Plan. One of the 9-point plans announced by President Jacob Zuma is the revitalization of agriculture. The ANC supports the budget vote 24. Thank you very much.
I put vote 24 again. Are there any objections? Yes. I now put the questions. Those in favor will say aye. Those against will say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chairperson calls for division.
A division having been called by the DA, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. I would like to remind members that they may vote from their allocated seats. Are all members in their seats? When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that vote 24 be agreed to. Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press the yes button. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Thank you, honorable members. The voting session is now closed. The result of the division is as follows. Yes is 209, no 91, and there is no abstention. The vote is accordingly agreed to. I now put vote 25, economic development. Are there any objections? Yes. Declaration of vote have been requested. I now call upon the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Chairperson. Our GDP has dropped further to 1.3% with no end in sight, and unemployment is approaching 40%, of which 2/3 are young people, many of them successful graduates. As we speak, the tourism, construction, agricultural, and other industries are experiencing crisis due to ANC policy confusion and a lack of empathy with the realities of these and related industries. This is echoed by the relevant industries, not just the DA. South Africa deserves urgent economic development interventions and turnaround plans to be implemented in various sectors without delay if we want to achieve a GDP of above 1.5%. However, we have no indications on how this budget will unblock these challenges, nor any expectations that much will be done about this. Surely this budget do not represent value for money and do not give a plan to restore investors' confidence. Surely taxpayers expect from us not to support a budget that will evidently not deliver on the mandate of this department. I thank you.
Thank you, EFF.
Hlalo ngaphambi. Sake sakusho ke lo ngaphambi ukuthi asikho isidingo salomnyango. Izizumbulu zezimali ezinikezwa kulomnyango sibona ukuthi zingasebenza kangcono uma ngase zisize kakhulukazi ekuqiniseni izinhlaka ezithile zika DTI njengoba kwakunjalo kwasekuqaleni. Sikholelwa ekutheni futhi ukuthi okukhulunywa ngakho la kuthiwa ukudidiyela nokuhlanganisa ukwenza kwezinto kahulumeni akulona iqiniso ngoba vele uhulumeni wayekwazi ukuzenzela lezi zinto ngaphambili. Imali engaka ukuthi ibekelwe i-department eseniminyaka engaphezulu kweshumi kodwa ingakaze ikwazi ukuthi kubeke etafuleni ukuthi ikuphi kona okwayo eqale ngako nefika nakho. Okunye ke mhlambe ukuthi ke ngoba ke uyabonakala ukuthi unalo italent yena uminister uphathele. Mhlambe ke sebengamenza udeputy ka Davis. Bese kuthi ke honorable Masina ke abuba umhlonishwa abe yimeya lapha ekurulini ngoba vele usewusihlalo weANC. Asale sesiqhubha lento.
NFP.
Chairperson, our economy is ailing, some might say even critically so. The question which now comes to mind is, what strategic plans do the Economic Development Department have in place to halt the decline in our economic growth and to turn it around to place our economy on a positive growth path? The NFP believes that the department urgently needs to address issues such as the widening gap between the rich and the poor, the increasing rise in unemployment, the lack of rural development, and the derailment of black economic empowerment. If this is not done, we will continue to experience an economic decline in South Africa. More and more people will be unemployed, and more people will rely on grants for economic survival. Lack of positive economic growth is a real threat to democracy, and the NFP urges the Economic Development Department to urgently address the economic decline to avert a major socio-economic catastrophe in South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Cope.
Thank you, Chairperson. With ever increasing unemployment, inequality and poverty, and an economy that is stagnating, we are failing miserably in respect of economic development. Corporates, we all know, are sitting on a pile of money. Their reluctance to invest comes from policy uncertainty, corruption in government, and its failure to make manifest the rule of law. Our education, yes, black bags, our education is also not providing the skills needed, and crime is rampant. It is the patent and visible failure of government, however, that is the primary impediment to growth. So long as government believes its own propaganda, so long economic development will stall. The government has failed in getting all spheres of government to roll out infrastructure development with speed, expertise, and without procurement corruption. All else is therefore futile. Therefore, there is no growth and no opportunity for the creation of decent jobs. In fact, the country is about to witness massive job shedding. For this reason, we can't, as COPE, support this. I mean, if joblessness has gone beyond 40%, our people are actually dying in this country. There are very, very serious problems. And when we talk about corruption, I hope government will look into this very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The APC supports the budget vote. And our take, Comrade Minister, is that we perpetually talk about inequality, unemployment, and the rest. And the perspective of the APC is that the experience of the last 21 years cannot be refuted, that unless government actively participates in the economy, these challenges that we inherited from the past will remain with us. Reality is the percentage of the role or the stake of government in the economy is too low to bring about the kind of transformation that we need. I'm sure that even capitalist rulers would agree that private capital has failed our people. And unless government, on behalf of the people, elected by the people, is able to step in, and your department playing a critical and central role in defining and driving government's participation in the economy, will remain with the challenges that we have. Because capitalist focus is merely on economic growth, using the trickle-down theory, which we know does not work and will not work for the poor of our people. So for us to effect substantive economic transformation, the government must boldly, without fear, step into the realm of, of the economy and ensure that it has a much, much higher stake in the economy to be able to effect the kind of changes and create the employment that we need and reduce the inequalities that we have inherited and which we might appear to have assumed that they are normal.
Order, Honorable Member, your time is up. ACDP, ANC.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. The ANC supports the budget vote. Why? Because the department's strategic objectives for the medium term are on the right track. The department has a very clear and well-defined key performance indicators that, according to us, are continuing to enhance their coordination and intervention responsibilities. We saw that programs have been streamlined into three very, very focused ones for increased efficiency and effective purposes. And then the synergy in the work of the ITEC that has been brought about by the work done by the ministry and between the work of ITEC and the competition authorities, we feel will help in creating a competitive business environment whilst ensuring protection of nascent industries, which is very good for job creation and investment in the economy. Honorable House Chairperson, it is not the negative statements and continuous criticism of government's programs and plans that will ensure growth and development in our economy. But we believe it is a shared country's shared vision on economic growth path and trajectory that will see to it that we encourage people to come and invest, and we also encourage those that are still coming, the youngsters, to participate and create more jobs.
Order, Honorable Member, your time is up. I put vote 21. I put vote 25 again. Are there any objections? I now put the question. Those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it.
Chair, will you note the objection of the DA, please?
DA's objection noted.
We call for a division.
A division having been called by the EFF, the bells will be rung for 1 minute. I would like to remind members that they may only vote from their allocated seats. When requested to do so, members must simply indicate their vote by pressing the appropriate button below the yes, no, or abstain signs. If a member inadvertently presses the wrong button, the member may thereafter press the correct button. The last button pressed will be recorded as the member's vote when the voting session is closed by the chair. The question before the House is that the vote be agreed to. Are all members in their allocated seats? Voting will now commence. Those in favor of the vote being agreed to should press yes. Those against should press the no button. Those wishing to abstain should press the abstain button. Have all members voted? Thank you. The voting session is now closed. The result of the division is as follows. The yes have 209, no 83, and there is no abstention. The vote is accordingly agreed to. I now put vote 26, energy. Are there any objections? Declaration of the vote having been requested, I now call upon the Democratic Alliance.
Speaker, Chair, the Department of Energy is exceptional. Amongst its competitor ministries, it is nearly unrivaled. In the race to the bottom, the Department of Energy demonstrates a particular talent for underachievement that, were it not so destructive to the country, would be almost breathtaking to watch. You see, Chair, this department that together with its SOEs has so many acting officials, from an acting Director General to acting CEOs and acting board members, that even the Academy Awards is contemplating the addition of a category for Best Actor or Actress in a South African Department of State or state-owned entity. If the House thinks my attempt at humour is poor, I'm sad to report that the department's performance is even poorer. Against 38 performance targets in the second quarter of the previous financial year, only 13, or an appalling 21%, were actually met. Against 33 performance targets in the third quarter, only 7 were fully met. Fourth quarter performance will no doubt confirm that the department has failed to meet even 40% of its performance targets for the past financial year. Although I suppose if 40% equals a pass rate for South African matriculants, then the same could conceivably apply to the Department of Energy. But passing is simply not enough. You see, the department's dismal performance is, according to Fitch, the single biggest stumbling block to addressing the energy crisis which engulfs our nations and which undermines economic growth and destroys jobs. Critical interventions by the department are outstanding and have been so in some cases for almost 5 years. Where, Minister, is the Integrated Energy Plan, the revised Integrated Resource Plan, the Gas Utilisation Master Plan, the Gas Amendment Bill? I could go on. The answer is simple. They, like Minister Tina Johansson-Petersen, are missing in action. Perhaps the minister should spend less time in Russia and more time on providing the necessary leadership to her department. Her myopic view on the nuclear new build program, which does nothing to solve our immediate energy crisis, is prolonging the energy shortage and harming the country. As such, Chair, the DA will not this year be supporting the department's budget.
Time is up.
Better luck next year.
EFF.
On a point of order, Chair.
Order. Honourable member, who's...
On a point of order.
Order.
Is it parliamentary for members or honourable members just to be standing there when the House is actually in session? Isn't that disrespectful of the proceedings?
Order. Order. Order, honourable members. All members in the House, they must still be respectful that the debate is going on. Honourable member of the EFF, proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The EFF rejects this budget vote. The reality is that this department is leaderless. The Deputy Minister comes to the committee and then she says that a storage facility will employ 21,000 people. That's not even a sign of being clueless. It's a sign that she has never even seen a storage facility in terms of how it operates. SEF is a holding company of all the subsidiaries under the Energy Department, Minister. All these companies are dysfunctional. Their boards are useless. There is nothing that is happening there. Minister, there are 4 key pillars of running an effective company. Marketing must be there, human resource must be there, operations must be there, Minister, as part of those things. Petro SA is swimming in a pool of debt and is declaring huge losses. But it's busy signing agreements with multinational companies, giving away the future of energy of this country, which is oil and gas. All our offshore acreages have been signed off to multinational companies from Canada, Italy, as far as India. Minister, NESA is busy approving licenses of storage facilities without proper detailed research. When they finish doing that, they bring it to the committee so that the committee can endorse everything that they've already approved. Minister, the issue of the nuclear energy, we want to know where is the funding going to come from, because the reality is that this government, what they do, they approve the funding and then they make a U-turn and ask the residents of this country to pay for the funding like they did with the e-tolls. So the EFF reject this budget, Minister.
Thank you, Cope. Cope. APC. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Every time we speak about the energy crisis or energy challenges in the country, it is more about, and correctly so, how it impacts on the economy and how those who have access to this energy like electricity suffer from load shedding, without a thought being given to the about 15% of our people who have had no access as yet